My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is Criminal Summoning in Engineer Light by Ontario PD, monitoring with the people of the state and engaging in criminal summoning to try to engage in what is 1582404, vehicle 1019. That's a male. He's going to federal prison. He's stopping here because he's talking to the people of the state. This demon over here that's on the sidewalk stopping and talking about anything was the P.O.C, but he's stopping him, addressing him, hey, you don't want to talk something about that. He's stopping and engaging in what is light activity, relevant positioning, and laudable activity is his speech. He's doing so gang stalking with the people of the state in the specific environment. Remember, this is where the entity is flying in circles over me by helicopter as well. Gang stalking by a demon in the Ontario Police Department vehicles is the pattern of the entity is doing so while stalking in the path. The entity is gang stalking. Let me remind you about where he's at, engaging in criminal summoning. Okay, this is my shot at tremendous distance over here. He's gang stalking. This is a demon whose real focus is me. They're exhibiting mental illness. The people of the state are stalking with light like they always are. They're always incriminating each other. They're molesting me with impossible light right now, which the people of the state are always doing, while the Ontario police are gang stalking just like they are now. Stopping in front of me was the criminal act of what is threatening, engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring while you're looking at my shadow, which is way in front of me, and traffic builds up as I document impossible light activity. The entity is subject to what is federal prison. That's a demon, gang stalking with the Ontario, as an Ontario Police Department officer. That was Satan wearing a suit, seeking to try to threaten me, okay? This is engineer light. And never is any traffic stop happening in this area, and it's anything other than the pattern of conduct. This is what you need to know. Ontario Police Department are demons that are gang stalking together with the people of the state. Pulling over the demons who are the people of the state is gang stalking me. Who are the people of the state targeting? They're in the exact same environment, and they're targeting me. Who are the people of the state targeting when the fake sun is over the top of my head? They're targeting the same person as the demons of the Ontario Police Department. That license plate and vehicle number is referring to what is a male, and he is going to federal prison with regard to his engagement in what is he's seeking to address me, or at least he motions to, and he gets right in his vehicle as I start recording. I just want to be clear, even if I were standing here engaged in what is, it would be a law, it would be illegal. But for example, public intoxication, okay, where there's law that, and I'm in violation of the law. Do you understand that the Ontario Police Department gang stalking is never going to create what is authority for the entity to engage in the pattern of conduct? The demon possessed are engaged in what is stalking in the path together. So in the environment where the entity is maintaining impossible light activity, where not only do I have multiple shadows on the ground, not only are the people of the state gang stalking while they were crossing paths, each and every one of those vehicles, that's called light activity, the elements monitoring. My shadows appearing on this a traffic sign way in front of me over here. That's impossible light activity for my shadow. The demons are causing light activity on this wall right here, not the product of headlights. And the entity is stalking with all manner of light activity. And this demon, he was actually very anxious and looking forward to trying to engage in what is even saying anything is monitoring me, first of all. And the entity in doing so, this is called criminal summoning. I just want to document that. That demon's going to federal prison. This is what they're doing all day long when the fake sun is over me and the Ontario Police Department engage in what is the use of a vehicle, their uniform, which is how demons who are engaged in criminal monitoring are engaging what is abusive position. Engaging criminal summoning is necessarily using the position as a means of making it appear as though it's a part of their position, execution of their duties as police officers. They're not police officers, and that's not law enforcement. They're engaged in surveillance. Guess what this is? When you're engaging in what is a traffic stop? It's called criminal summoning. This is surveillance. And that demon just did it perfectly in alignment to me, okay? In this engineered light. Guess who's the focus? Not the demon that he's talking to, but me. That's called malice. And that's the outward demonstration of mental illness. The same psychopaths that are right here in the same environment where you've seen night after night after night, while the people of the state, the same demons, mentally sick, stalking with light. So is this. This is called stalking with light. This is not the product of being under any sort of light fixture. This is a demonic environment, and demons that are the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking. That's federal prison. It is currently 12:39 a.m. on July 1st, 2025. The unlawful threat is posed by the entity that's gang stalking, stopping right in front of me with their police vehicle lights on, hopping out of the vehicle to talk to somebody that's on the sidewalk, just to let that person continue walking off and then hop back in your car. So they're engaged in such a violation of the law. You're stopping in the middle of the traffic, and you're engaging in what is just hollering up, hey, 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 hey. and they just keep on walking, and then you get back in your vehicle as soon as I start recording, and you're going down the street, that's a demon that's engaging what is actually stalking me. I'm the focal point. And you know that, regardless of what the scene looks like, because what the scene looks like is where you're looking at what is stalking would like. Because this is where the people that say they're up right now at 12 in the morning stalking me. The bike walking around on the sidewalk, this is monitoring that they're doing 24 hours a day. Me. Including 325 West G Street. Including 323 West G Street. Including 403 West G Street. Including 630 West G Street. Woodside Senior Apartments 408 and 302 West G Street. Everybody in this neighborhood is gang stalking. They're monitoring. This is criminal surveillance. Where's the fake sun in the morning when the Ontario police are gang stalking me all day long? Where Corey Watson is stalking in that cafe, which is right around the corner where the entity is keeping the fake sun where it sets at the OVITT Family Community Library. Right here in the block where the fake sun is rising and setting. This is where the entity is engaged in criminal summoning. It's subject to federal prison. This is stalking in the path with light. They're monitoring me from this distance where I have multiple shadows, and they're engaging what is trying to avoid being documented. Stopping in the middle of the street is stalking with light in the middle of the night. This is P.O.C. All right. It is currently, again, 12:41. Going through all that analysis so that you recognize the mental illness that's put on full display. You're dealing with what is malice, malicious demons, whose mental illness are put right in front of your face. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. License 6JPT993. That's P.O.C. That's also light activity while they are driving by. An engineer light. Here's multiple shadows right here in front and another shadow over here. They're all driving an engineer light, stopping in the middle of the street, engaging in what is gang stalking. He stops right in front of me with regard to his true focus. That's Satan. And that's a demon-possessed person that's wearing an Ontario police uniform. That's the Ontario police that's being disbanded. That's P.O.C. It is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. It's 5:58 a.m. And under the fake sun is third party. Looks like Home Depot is the logo on the side of the truck. They are stalking. Stalking is identified through that supernatural environment that's there for the purposes of targeting by the people of the state, a government that's acting with the people of the state. And the license plate for, it looks like Home Depot, they're sitting with their hazard lights on. They're facilitating massive monitoring with the people. This is a federal offense. It's an Indiana plate, license 3611403. The two males are seated in the truck, and as I begin documenting, then one of the males exits and crosses the street, starts doing something. They can be digging up the concrete. It's stalking with light activity. It's facilitation. It's federal stalking. It is U.S.53773, and it is Home Depot. It's a large white pickup truck. Two males wearing these neon yellow jackets. And this is the city of Ontario also that's gang stalking. So Starbucks, Sarah's inside, Brian's inside, Amelia's gang stalking, engaging in surveillance in her vehicle with regard to crossing path. This is ongoing connection of demons that are surrounding as I'm walking from the professional building, and the entity's keeping the fake sun in order to have it rising in alignment to me at this Starbucks where you are stalking in the path with light activity. This third party goes across the street to 506 North Euclid Avenue, the Chevron, which is also gang stalking. Every property is every establishment is subject to a prosecution. And that's because it's not based on your business hours. The people of the state go and park in parking lots and use those venues. Engineer light is all over. The engineer light isn't based on when they're open and closed. Engineer light, with regard to presence in the path, they're stalking in the path, going on any and every property, and you're going to be prosecuted for that because they're also gang stalking during business hours, making money while the people of the state are at their venues, and you will be prosecuted whether your business hours are open or closed. This is built into what is public corruption. Amelia's license plate is 6ZEU331. BBPITA is gang stalking with the Home Depot that's maintaining light activity. And you already know that the entity is stalking with the fake sun in perfect alignment with me inside of this cafe at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, where all of them are proven to be stalking me through the unbelievably obvious level of evidence by just keeping the fake sun over me at the venue. Like I said, it's a straightforward prosecution. 9MKB 686, 5DNX 602, and 7WVS 549. It is again July 1st, 2025. The people of the state are pacing. These are stalkers. These are the stalkers that were gang stalking with the Ontario police and engineer light, engaging in what is
Intolerable. Gang stalking police officers commit murder and kidnapping. They are the corrupt executive branch, and that is a basis for federal prison, non-negotiable, mandatory. And he is going to federal prison. If you'll pay attention, I'll take a screenshot for you. The same light activity that he is committing criminal summoning in with my multiple shadows, that's the same light activity inside of the Starbucks cafe while the fake sun is aimed on me, where Corey Watson and his partner are gang stalking. This is the I believe that was license plate 1706919 that she was operating yesterday, and Corey Watson gang stalking with her. And all the people of the state pacing in and out, monitoring. And that's what the Ontario Police Department are doing in the middle of the night with the same impossible light activity, multiple shadows when you're standing under light fixtures, multiple shadows when you're standing under the sun, and neither create that sort of light activity. That's identifying monitoring, and it's federal prison for Corey Watson, who also committed kidnapping. Federal prison is inevitable. Federal prison is because you're threatening me by gang stalking me with a documented corrupt officer who is threatening by virtue of presence, monitoring with somebody that already kidnapped me, pursuant to malicious assertions, which is the intentional conduct of Starbucks that's hostile to documentation, which is what you saw yesterday, that documented act of obstruction of justice. That's federal prison as well. All right, everybody that works at Starbucks, everybody that was engaging in that, and then you bring in the felons themselves. This is, again, these are the tactics of the entity that's gang stalking, engaging in this bullying conduct, and I'm going to bully you with time in federal prison. This is exactly what they do to ordinary target individuals who don't have any evidence, who are suffering in silence. They're living in a bubble. Nobody knows what's going on, and the entity's passive-aggressive psychopathic conduct of targeting someone occurs silently because they don't have to talk to you, they don't have to address you. Totally disregarding the fact that you engaged in violating my rights, you kidnapped me, claiming that I'm a sex offender molesting children, and then you see Corey Watson and his partner waving at me. But you know what you see? You see that fake sun over their heads while they're stalking in the past? That's mental illness. That's how you treat evidence like that. The entity thinks that psychological torture and gang stalking is only existing as long as they're acting mean to you or something delusional like that. These are demons that are unprepared for a federal prosecution that's fact-focused and showing how malicious this corrupt system is. And you are not my friend, and there is no friendly basis where you're waving to me like I forgot that you kidnapped me pursuant to claims that I'm violating children, when the entity is actually the sex offender and the pedophiles. Yeah, the people of the state that are going to federal prison, you're going to find out that they're pedophiles, that they traffic children. That's why they make such absurd and obviously false statements about me in order to kidnap me under the fake sun. That's what Corey Watson has engaged in, and his partner coming in here, targeting me with these little high school graduates that aren't ready to sit in federal prison for gang stalking me. They're not. It's currently 6:04 a.m., July 1st, 2025. This is P.O.C. All right, Amelia and Starbucks sharing in ongoing psychological torture, gang stalking with the people of the state on Euclid Avenue, and she enters into the venue with knowledge that she's been documented. She enters into the venue, which is stalking in the path in alignment to me, at the same time that impossible light activity molests all over my person, radiant, rich, orange engineered light, moving all across the wall. This is very demonic what Amelia and the people of the state are engaging in, which I'm going to prosecute the company Starbucks and in the city of Ontario for. This is impossible light that moves all across. This is violence that they're sharing in while you're stalking, engaging in that passive aggressive means of targeting someone, and it's criminal monitoring. She's engaging in that together. This is how demons exhibit mental illness, and this is the same entity that the City of Ontario Police Department relies on to appear legitimate when they're engaging in criminal summoning. The people of the state, psychopaths like Amelia, who are stalking with light. That's what you're mindful of when you see this iteration of the P.O.C. by the Ontario Police gang stalking in a police vehicle, which is the basis of federal prison. And she enters, it's 6:17 a.m., where that's, again, the outward demonstration of mental illness. The entity using what is ongoing violence, this demonic behavior by demons who are targeting with engineered light while they're criminally monitoring on communication devices. It's literally a simultaneous admission to federal stalking under Title 18, both the corporation, Starbucks, and every employee. It does include Sarah, Brian, Amelia, who are gang stalking with the entity. It's 6:18 at 507 North Euclid Avenue. This is what the entity is engaging on an ongoing basis while I'm documenting and publishing the evidence on the internet. You have the people of the state stalking in the male restroom and pacing in and out by purchasing drinks, which is the means of gang stalking at the venue. It is currently 6:18 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, the Caucasian male, the bald head, he's gang stalking with Starbucks as well. He's walking in engineer light. You can see it on his legs. It's all impossible light activity, 86605A4. Gang stalking with the African American male who's monitoring my vagina. I documented him gang stalking. The entity engages in what is arriving the next day and the day after that. And their basis of engaging in that sort of conduct is based on their establishing, I'm always here, I always come to Starbucks, which is also legally relevant. You can come to Starbucks for the first time and engage in the pattern of conduct. The entity is unprepared for a prosecution for domestic terrorism and for what is ongoing using war tactics against an American citizen that you're targeting. That's going to be a basis for that unprecedented prosecution, which companies like Starbucks are engaging in, and their psychopathic employees like Amelia stalking me with light while she walks in and doing so. And the entity's theory behind that is, no hands, I'm going to prosecute psychopaths and sex offenders for that very conduct. It is criminal monitoring. It's currently 6:21 a.m. These images will be uploaded to the Google Drive. This is P.O.C. All right, just want to document the ongoing demonic synchronicity of the ongoing attacks waged by the people of the state, entering in through all doors where simultaneous impossible light is flying through the venue, which the employees are engaging in with the demons that are gang stalking with them, coming into the venue and purchasing drinks. And closing the blinds has absolutely nothing to do with impossible light activity. Just want to make sure that that's clear. It has nothing to do with the fake sun either. The entity is engaging in the same way that the sun doesn't sit over one address for 12 hours. It's that logical. But the entity is engaging in what is targeting with license plate. Let me get this license. You will see they're engaged in federal stalking. I'm uploading onto the internet and I am editing for, now we're in the new month of July. Thank you. I appreciate it. It gets a little bright in here. Yeah. That's malice. So anyway, the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct, and closing the blinds has nothing to do with impossible light activity. It's not a reflection off of their vehicles. It's not sunlight, and that's not the sun. It's not the natural environment that they're all driving under, stalking together. Closing the blinds is, again, the demons that are delusional, relying on, they're closing the blinds in order to block out the sun. That's not sunlight. It's engineer light where monitoring is underway, and it still remains in the venue. And the same way that sunlight doesn't create your shadow upright on the seat and then on the floor, double shadows, and then also flat on the sidewalk outside. The entity has the engineer light on the sidewalk outside, and then fanning on the inside, and then reaching all the way over to my person where I'm seated back in the corner of the building. This is the entity that's targeting with light. It has nothing to do with closing the blinds. That's activity creation as they engage in that. And you have the pattern of conduct. This is what I'm stating. The entity engages in the pattern while a supernatural occurrence repeats with a population of people. That's how you're getting the pattern of conduct. This same Latino male gang stalking, again, this violence that the entity commits against women, this is speaking to the cowards, the sex offenders, the rapists, the kidnappers that are gang stalking. This Latino male at 6:34 a.m. Entering in and attacking with impossible light activity while he's engaged in federal stalking with the Ontario police, pacing in the venue, an operational communication device, wearing a black shirt, dark blue jeans. I documented this sex offender already. License plate 8FID588. That's P.O.C. In the same Home Depot truck, stalking, facilitating. They're sitting in the truck. They came in. He went across the street to the Chevron when I started taking pictures, and then they come into Starbucks, which is them pacing. They're monitoring while they're doing that, and the entity is now engaging what is going right back to what they're doing. They're maintaining light activity while the demons are pacing into this venue, stalking with light and doing so. This is mental illness that the entity shares while they're gang stalking. All right, so let me document the pattern that the people of the state are replicating, monitoring together. And this is the corrupt business of Starbucks as well. That's because they're purchasing Starbucks drinks while Starbucks is gang stalking. License 8PJF784. And this third party enters in engaging in the identical pattern of conduct, which is, again, impossible light activity under a fake sun. None of these are coincidences. This is the intent of the entity to engage in criminal surveillance, psychological torture, stalking, molestation, domestic terrorism with impossible light activity pursuant to criminal monitoring in violation of federal stalking statute, Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. This other third party's license plate, you'll see this male, the license plate that I recited, but let me go ahead and read that again. 6 FID. And then 6 FID. 6 FID 588. That's a pattern as you document the people of the state as they engage in repeat offenses. You're not going to be prosecuted for buying coffee, which is what they think their cover is. The entity is literally engaging in, oh, I'm going to go in because I'm going to McDonald's, or because I work here, or because I live here, or because I always visit here, while they're not understanding how a system of corruption by a government that's engaged in surveillance is going to be prosecuted, and also clearly shown the impossible light chicanery, the fake sun chicanery, the blatant stalking by the government that's acting directly. The people of the state are surrounded. And so I'm going, in the same way that they seek to surround me with impossible light, I'm going to surround them with federal cases. And that's, again, the entities engaging in this P.O.C. with a level of delusion which is relevant to the mental illness. These are demon-possessed people. So they're very, very much lacking in foresight and wisdom and taking heed to warnings. My ability to document a population that is repeatedly, over and over, systematically foolish is relevant to the condition. This is psychopathic obsessive behavior, and it's also very delusional, okay? That's relevant to the mental illness of the entity that is gang stalking. In addition to the behavior of stalking with light, the behavior of stalking under a fake sun, the behavior of pacing all around in a manner that they think nobody's able to see. You can see them very plain when they're all under a fake sun, and what is the way I like to put it so that you see how ridiculous they are and how ridiculous they look. They're in fake sunlight under a fake sun, and they're all pacing around like psychopaths. That's relevant to their behavioral health, and that's what it's going to be diagnosed and prosecuted. It's currently 6:38 a.m. This is 507 North Euclid Avenue, Starbucks, gang stalking, P.O.C. All right, it is currently 8:30 a.m. The entity has a fake sun in alignment to me. Alana is stalking in the path as she's tracking my steps, and the fake sun moves from the east side to the west side of the cafe. She's dragging something, and engineer light swipes across the wall. She's engaging in the same thing at the front entrance. This is, again, Jasmine, Sarah, Harley, Brian, Amelia, Vivian. And they're gang stalking with the demons that are, this is criminal monitoring, license 9SSB 794 as well. And the entity is gang stalking City of Ontario. You'll see the images maintaining the 2 utility vehicles, which is flashing light activity. That's what the Home Depot large truck was engaging in, stalking with light activity. The context is that they're all in engineer light under a fake sun, stalking with light. Opening and closing the doors is a terrorizing act of stalking with light. It's psychopathic, and it's also obsessive when a psychopath that's stalking you is doing it while they're keeping their back to you. That's psychologically harmful conduct. License 5PRR201 198 50H2. The population engaged in that ongoing terrorism as well while they're driving by, terrorizing acts of molesting with light, surrounding with this flying light all over the place while they're all monitoring, and they're all sitting around stalking one person, and they're watching me publish all the evidence against them. This is, again, these are the sex offenders also centering all their attention on my vagina as well. 9 PPW 144, 9 RKZ 991, 8KJJ 589. It is currently 8:32 a.m. and Starbucks is, and the corporation and the employees that I'm naming, they're all engaging in that ongoing gang stalking. Literally, Alana is a psychopath. They're tracking my steps as opposed to being focused on making coffee drinks. As I move inside of the cafe, these demons are pacing in and out, crossing path with me, and doing so while opening and closing a door, and engineer light is swipe it. That's impossible light activity. It's never naturally happening. That's how you're recognizing the intent to do so and the actual focus, which is gang stalking and not coffee preparation. And this is relevant to the prosecution of Starbucks, the corporation, okay? In addition to every gang stalker, that's stalking inside of the cafe, which is criminal facilitation of state surveillance. And this is disbanding the Ontario police who are gang stalking with the people of the state engaging in surveillance on their behalf. It is, again, July 1st, 2025. The entity is keeping the fake sun at 507 North Euclid Avenue. The entity is maintaining the specific environment, same time of year in Los Angeles where LAPD is gang stalking me as well. This is the ongoing juxtaposition with regard to prosecuting the state of California when you're recognizing the environment that is conducive to criminal monitoring, which is done in furtherance with murder and kidnapping, and that's also why the entity is subject to what things such as mental asylums and federal prison, and the criminal record for terrorism. This isn't just going to be stalking, this is prosecution for domestic terrorism. The entity is targeting as a population, the entity is targeting in psychopathic manners, the entity is targeting in demented and sexually perverted ways as well, and they're going to be prosecuted for what is massive surveillance, not only in relevant position in the environment, but on communication devices and on the venue of the internet. And what these demons are basically doing, I'm not the ordinary targeted individual, they're engaging in what is surveillance of the evidence that's being published systematically online, identifying them. So and then you're getting to what is, then you're harassing and harming and engaging in violence against me because you're hostile about the evidence against you that you're keeping under surveillance. And this is how the psychopaths are witnessing their own demise. It's currently 8:34 a.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 9:29 a.m. at 507 North Euclid Avenue. And the entity is, you're looking at inside of the cafe where they're walking in engineer light that's flat on the inside of the cafe, and they're walking in, these are the demon possessed that are pacing, and they're doing it while the fake sun is in alignment to me. And this is that demonic synchronicity amongst a population that is engaged in targeting together and also doing so in a highly unintelligent manner. You're witnessing a population stalking one person, while they're engaging in what is monitoring, and they're doing so pursuant to what is exposure at the same time. So the joke is on the demons, and they're all being documented at the same time. This demon license 8RXH542, gang stalking. While this African American, she's shaped like an apple or an orange. She is stalking in the path with her communication device. You'll see her, and you'll see the fake sun and the engineer light, like Alana did, with regard to what's never happening with sunlight, and it's also not happening under the covered structure of the patio area of Starbucks. That's under a covering. The entity has engineer light underneath the covering, stalking with light, and opening and closing a door does not create the shape of that door and a light shape of that door moving around. That's a demon that's stalking with light, that's monitoring with an Oklahoma plate. MGT 498. Okay, that's Oklahoma, P.O.C, engaged in federal stalking, and this is a population of demons. Demons don't have any race, is what you'll notice. License plate, DE75M82. License 6ZEU331, yeah, that's Amelia. 5VOG870, 8STS582, 9EBV493, JTS9919, that's Texas, 9RMJ719. And this is all criminal conduct that the city of Ontario is engaging in, but I'm going to prosecute Starbucks, okay? As y'all pay attention, the entity that has Alrighty, City of Ontario, the municipality engaging in gang stalking, arriving to aid in light activity while the demons pace up the drive-through 9PXH851. Okay, that's POC. The City of Ontario is already prosecuted. They're engaging in the demonic conduct 8XDX556. License plate. Paul Leon's being removed from office. License 8FWF035. License 8FXD004. 5, yeah, I read that one already. That's the Starbucks employee's license 5DNX602. 9MKB686. And again, the entity is engaging in the fully exposed pattern of conduct. Paul Leon and the Ontario City Council, they're engaged in state surveillance and furtherance of murder and kidnapping me with the ultimate objective to steal property, which is revealing public corruption while criminal surveillance is underway. This is targeting, and it's also demonic. License plate 7LNU260. And purchasing a drink from Starbucks is Starbucks criminal activity. They're using their product, their establishment, to gang stalk. The employees are gang stalking. The establishment is gang stalking. While that specific environment follows me to your establishment, it is a facilitating venue where the employees are not coincidentally stalking with light. It's acting in conformity. It's ongoing facilitation. This whole demonic system and this system of what is public corruption is exposed in every aspect of it. The joke is indeed on the demons. And I'm prosecuting them while a population practices a behavioral pattern that is supernatural, meaning the pattern is something that is impossible to be made up or manufactured by any person. For me to document stalking with light at multiple Starbucks, for example, that's impossible for anybody to make up. And it's also impossible for that light activity to occur. That's how you have a conclusive body of evidence of a pattern of conduct amongst the demon possessed who are also in a demonic environment, engaging in the demonic system of gang stalking, which judges, courts, attorneys, the people of the state that are in your family, people of the state that you socially associate with, people of the state that you go to school with, that you work with, that you are surrounded by in public everywhere are gang stalking as you document that specific environment. And it is simultaneously exposing, as the demons in the background prove, the gang stalking mayor is being removed from office, the gang stalking city council is being removed from office, the gang stalking police department's being disbanded for kidnapping, where they're gang stalking like the Ontario police have. The gang stalking police departments, however, are going to be prosecuted for public corruption, state surveillance, while a population is gang stalking. Every level of government in that city, county is gang stalking. This is how the joke is indeed on the demons. LAPD is under no natural environment where they are at this time last year keeping a fake sun over me, where imbeciles come and empty the garbage while they're engaging in amplified audible activity, engaging in what is no genuine schedule or routine regarding trash dumpster emptying. They go to wherever the fake sun is, as I begin documenting, in order to engage in demonic pacing and facilitation, where the people of the state are targeting with that city. That's the city of Ontario. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct in the face of evidence that's already proven that they're guilty. Okay, in the face of evidence that's already proven the fact that judges have stolen my property and thought that nobody was ever going to know about it, and that gang stalking was going to create the illusion where you're interfering with my liberty right to be free from domestic terrorism and psychological torture on the job as a property manager, free from domestic terrorism and psychological torture on the job as a licensed attorney, and that's supposed to aid in the falsely depicting my character. 6WDJ146 is supposed to be evidence of my mental illness while I'm documenting them day and night targeting me. And that is not actual mental illness at all. That's not how mental illness is identified and addressed. And I want to be clear, this blatant and unconstitutionally vague law that the government abuses to steal and defame targeted individuals in order to demonstrate that they're mentally incompetent in one way or another and steal their property. This is exactly why the laws are going to change, because my documentation in the prosecution of the state of California proves that that law is unconstitutional. The entity that is manufacturing mental illness by targeting, that is proving that the bases that the laws, that the entity, the public entities, the states rely on to take property from an American citizen, that's not actual mental illness if it can be manufactured. If you can target and create an illusion that looks just like what mental illness is supposed to look like. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct when there are people in this country that have the same circumstance. It has nothing to do with mental illness at all. Okay, the entity is engaged in what is targeting me, and you have no, especially when I'm going to keep my professional reputation and my accomplishments intact, and I vow out from walking away from practicing law because I'm being harassed by these demons who are practicing law. That has nothing to do with mental illness. That has to do with foresight and wisdom and protecting what I invested in, which was my future and my education. That has nothing to do with mental illness, but a corrupt courthouse that's doing things such as creating fake conservatorships, that is doing things like keeping property from me that I don't even know about, and only relying, and necessarily secretly, you have to be defaming me behind my back in ways in which I don't know about because you don't want me to speak about it. They clearly are fearful of me addressing it. They don't want, I'm the last person that they want to know about it, understand the person who I am and my ability to clearly articulate what the facts are and how this is inherently corrupt and that they're lying, in other words. That's why the entity engaged in what are glaring violations of the law at every regard, illegitimate at every turn. And the entity is still gang stalking, and the joke is on them. All right, but I want to be clear, it has nothing to do with mental illness. And these laws in the country that are used to deprive American citizens of their property, real property, whatever property, on the basis of mental illness, which can be manufactured upon what is targeting that I have proven is existing in California and throughout this country, and what is also not bases of mental illness. The entity is engaging in what is making it up. The entity is engaged in criminal surveillance. Celebrities are subject to this very conduct. And I don't find it, as an aside, I don't find it a legitimate government interest in the first place. What I do with my property and my money is not the government's business, unless I'm violating the law. Okay, I can irresponsibly spend my money if I want to, and no family member should be able to control that either. But that's not the case. The entity uses these irrelevant points in order to establish that they should have control over somebody else's property that they did not earn, that they did not work for, that they are not due. And the entity is doing it when they're targeting American citizens. And in my case, they're targeting me and making it up because they didn't even have any material to try to falsely depict me as mentally ill. So the Ontario police just engaged in just repeatedly kidnapping me and making up charges, repeatedly kidnapping and making up mental illness conditions. When you're kidnapping, they're being disbanded for that. And ironically, The actual mentally ill are those that are engaging in this psychopathic pattern of conduct, like stalking in a bathroom, like stalking with children in tow, because you're a maniacal psychopath and you think that that makes you appear less violent, less suspicious. When that's a psychopath and that's a stalker, that's a threat to those children. That's how that evidence is viewed properly in its proper context. License 7YXH979. Like stalking as a whole corrupt government body, stalking. Because that's what you're doing when you're monitoring somebody. You're not just stalking me as I go from place to place. You're stalking with light and audible activity as I move my person around, as I move my arm and turn my neck and lay down and sit up and use the bathroom and am physically indisposed. CY46S29 paper on a Hyundai Elantra. License 9RMG546. That's psychopathic. The actually mentally ill are hiding in plain sight, in the same way that the specific environment is right in plain sight. It's hiding in plain sight. They're all in a circus environment. They're all engaging in what is demonic and demented behavior, and they're doing so with regard to surveillance that's never been exposed, that is underway. And with regard to this surveillance system, there is targeting that goes on with regard to seeking to murder and kidnap American citizens. Kidnapping is accomplished by falsely depicting the character. The government, while it's exercising authority that it doesn't actually have because it's gang stalking, will, under the guise of having some basis of authority, such as making up criminal charges, will arrest you. That's a kidnapping. Will engage in such as exercising fictitious authority under the Welfare and Institutions Code when they're gang stalking you and criminally defaming you, making it up in order to kidnap you under the Welfare and Institutions Code. Okay, this is the ways in which the entity is engaging in that. It is unconstitutionally vague, and it's outright incorrect. It's false. What the entity has relied on to take property from American citizens. And I'm documenting psychopaths. You are mentally ill when you're stalking an American citizen, which the Ontario International Airport is, using whole commercial planes and helicopters and government planes to stalk little old me. That's mental illness, ladies and gentlemen. That's mental illness. Now, the entity has done this to people that don't even have a voice. The entity has sought to steal my intellectual property so you would not hear my voice. All right? That's mental illness. It's psychopathic. While they're trying to hush me up so you don't know who I am, so you don't hear and you don't know about my documentation, so they can discard me and they can steal my property and nobody knows the wiser while you're being kept living in a bubble. Okay? The entity is engaging in what is very highly unintelligent, and their ongoing obsession and in a fully exposed endeavor shows how psychopathic, shows how unstable, it shows how dangerous the demon-possessed population is. These are the ones that are responsible for the crime rate, in case you did not know. These are the ones that are responsible for engaging in the criminal activity that the entity claims that they're investigating about. They're all gang stalking together. The demons that are playing cops and robbers with these psychopaths that are gang stalking as third parties, the gang stalking police department knows exactly who they are. License 8YJR656. They're all under the fake sun together. They're all in engineered light together, engaging in what is surveillance, and it's demonic, and it's Satan's system. And Satan, in case you did not know, is not a genius. He's not a genius. The only genius is the creator himself. Satan is a wannabe, and Satan can't even engage in what is an intelligent replication of what God has already done. Doing things like keeping the sun over one building all day long. It doesn't get any more, it doesn't get any more retarded than that. And it's obvious with regard to 9SZT952, license 5PRT077, gang stalking at the U.S. Bank, 333 North Euclid Avenue. All right, it is the pattern of conduct is relevant to what is federal prison because the entity sought to falsely depict my character in furtherance of stealing real, personal, and intellectual property from me. Wanted to not only falsely depict my character in order to steal from me, the entity is conspiring my murder, has engaged in what is soliciting people to take my life. I'm being targeted and gang stalked by people who are rapists. I'm being targeted and gang stalked by people who are convicted criminals. All right, and I'm also being targeted by people who are criminals that don't have a criminal record, such as the Ontario Police Department. Those are murderers. Those are kidnappers, and they're stalking. And they are psychopaths, stalking in a manner that they think nobody knows about. So that's why I always show you, look at this fake sun, look at this engineered light. This is a stalker and a demon possessed. This is a whole psychopath that thinks you can't see them. That's psychopathic. That's a threat to the public. Those are the ones that go around hurting tons of people at one time, blowing up buildings, shooting up people and locations in public, engaging in what is just senseless violence. It's the demon possessed. It's the people that say the demon possessed are real. Those who follow Satan, those who listen to Satan. And that's a real condition. I'm showing you who they are because they gang stalk. That's who they are. These are the ones that are engaged in those terrorist attacks, if you will. License 8WDA901, 8FFH688. And you think that it's so far-fetched because they have newborn kids, they got toddlers? Or because they're babysitters or they're preschool teachers? It's not far-fetched. You go right from conducting what is a open heart surgery to taking your guns that you've been keeping in your trunk while Satan torments your mind every night. And finally you listen and you go shoot up the nearby mall. You kill everybody, as many people as you can. Because that's exactly what the demon possessed engage in. That's exactly what's gang stalking me. All right, the entity's keeping the fake sun as I'm leaving Starbucks, and everybody that you saw me taking pictures of, that was pacing. Satan is using all of those bodies at the same time. They're obsessively stalking me. This is idolatry. The entity is worshiping me while they are stalking. This is demonic activity, and it's relevant for criminal conduct. The mayor, the local government, I want to be clear, the county sheriff's department, this is exposing everybody at the same time because it's conduct committed by a public entity. It's exposing everybody at the same time. All right, it is currently 9:44 a.m. and the fake sun is over me while I'm walking toward the same location that I did at a later time, which is the ongoing documentation. The fake sun that's over me at 9:45 at this OVITT Family Community Library, and then you're looking at the psychopaths that are gang stalking while they're at the OVITT Family Community Library at 1:07 p.m. And as though the sun is going to sit idle at the same entrance 10, 11, 12, 4 hours later. It didn't go anywhere. So I guess on that day, Florida doesn't get the sun because the sun depends on me and what time I arrive at a particular venue. No, those are the stalkers that are following as they're tracking my steps. Gang stalking is not based on chronology. Gang stalking is not based on identity. These demons that think that they're delusional, thinking that, no, you're not. You're a demon, first of all. Whoever you think that you're that title that you hold, no, you're not. You're a demon. That's what you are. You're a demon, and you're a stalker. You're a sex offender. That's what you are. You're not that position that you're holding. You're not a mayor. You're a sex offender. You're a criminal. You're corrupt. All right. You're also a fake pastor. You're a false teacher. All right. But this is the entity that's engaging in keeping the environment centered around the person that they're worshiping. It's idolatry, and it's the entity that seeks to sacrifice. When you want to put it in spiritual terms. License 8WH2221. And the entity has the fake sun, which I'm going to capture right now, 9:45. The entity engaged in criminal summoning at 12 this morning. You saw the impossible light, and you will see on the YouTube channel this is the P.O.C. On the YouTube post, I'm giving you an up-close visual because this is what you're always paying attention to. The impossible light, where my shadows are adjacent to each other on the sidewalk at 12 o'clock at night, which is not light activity that's resulting from standing under a light bulb. Okay, you're going to have one shadow that's on the ground. It's not going to be above your head. It's not going to create a line of shadows like a deck of cards all around your person. But this is the light activity that's underway when you're looking at a demon that's stalking another person, and that mental illness is put on full display when that person is trying to, while they're simultaneously monitoring, exerting their attention to somebody else. That's psychopathic and it's malicious. And it's an actor that's in doing so with regard to trying to find a way to murder that person. How can they kidnap that person? How can they set up this person that they're gang stalking maliciously? Gang stalking police officers go to federal prison. That's federal policy. That is mandated. That is mandatory. Okay? And I've been documenting the Ontario Police Department. They're surrounded with I want to be clear, insurmountable evidence. I could not put that fake sun over me when all of them are gang stalking me in for years. And it's multiple police departments, but Ontario they want to kidnap. Oh, you want to be disbanded then, because that's what's happening. License plate 22888J3. They're being disbanded. They're being disbanded for gang stalking with a population that's stalking day and night and monitoring my vagina. That's why they're being disbanded. Monitoring with their kids, monitoring with their spouses. License MACHIT8. This is a demon that's stalking with a possible light along the curb and doing so regardless of the consequences. That maniacal, obsessive, psychopathic conduct is criminal, and it's on behalf of the government. That is, again, the Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. It is currently, again, let me get this time, Because all the people of the state are doing, this is what you're putting in proper context. When you have a son sitting over one building for 12 hours, 7JXX845, another license. Guess what Satan is doing? All they're doing is walking in circles around me. That's all they're doing. That's mentally deranged. In case you do not know, imagine in your mind somebody standing in front of you and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You will be like, what the heck is wrong with you? Sit down. This is what the demon possessed are doing as a group. Satan tries very much to appear as normal and contained as possible, but this is why I document. Well, I document, period, and I'm going to speak the truth, period. But it's also strategic because as I speak the truth, these demons are triggered. Satan is triggered, and this is how I get hundreds of videos of stalking me in helicopter, because they're triggered by what they're listening to as I document them. I already know what they're doing, but in order to prosecute, I had to prove it. 9GCY815. All right, Securitas gang stalking. And she was also, Securitas was gang stalking at 10 o'clock in the morning with the Ontario Police at the University of Laverne. Coming out of the parking garage, Ontario Police gang stalking with Securitas again under the 9:49 a.m. fake sun. All right, license plate. This is vehicle 1106, license plate. This is a Latino male. This is impunity. Amplified train. License 1680795. All right, that is the Ontario Police engaging in surveillance in the parking garage, the same parking garage where you see engineered light on the ceiling inside of that parking garage, which is impossible light, and it's also demonic. The Ontario Police are demon-possessed. They're obsessively stalking me and monitoring my vagina. They're violent sex offenders and whose secret engagement in keeping me under surveillance and failing in seeking to artificially engineer mental illness, why they repeatedly kidnapped and then made up information pursuant to why they were engaging in a kidnapping and not speaking of it as a kidnapping, where they don't have any authority under the law, where they're stalking in the way in which I'm documenting again. The people of the state gang stalking with the Ontario Police. Again, this is license 9GCY815, stalking in the path with flashing lights. The Asian male appears to have long black hair. And this is Domino's. Domino's is gang stalking with light activity, just like the city of Ontario is with the dumpster truck, just like the city of Ontario with the 2 utility trucks outside of Starbucks, just like the entity is with the Home Depot truck at the on the curb outside of Starbucks, stalking with light activity while they're monitoring. It's relevant to light activity creation pursuant to monitoring on communication devices. They're monitoring what I'm documenting online, and you can just imagine in your mind, because it's the same thing when the entity flies over my head by helicopter. It's the same department, okay? They are being disbanded. They're gang stalking at nightfall as well. The identifying factor is things like multiple shadows, which is not the product of standing under any artificial light. All right, it's not the product when you stand under 2 light bulbs. It's not going to create multiple shadows. This is a demonic environment, and this is demonic behavior. And they're also stalking an environment that's irreconcilable with what the heck is LAPD stalking under then? Because the sun that's over me where LAPD is present in Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles is not going to be over this Domino's gang stalking third party. 9GCY815 going around and pacing around his vehicle, opening and closing the doors, which is activity creation. All right, this is the conduct that the Ontario Police Department facilitates while they're stalking with a whole bunch of demons inside of a Starbucks cafe. It's pathetic. 5CIM461. License plate 38090A1, license 9PJE905, and this is all they're doing is walking in circles, driving in circles. Their mental illness is exhibited while the demon-possessed pace all around me, because this is, and it's also idolatry. They're literally, the demon-possessed, these lower beings are literally worshiping while they're stalking me everywhere that I'm going, and they're doing so with regard to criminal surveillance that is also underway on the internet, and it's also speaking to how all of them at the same time, you don't become a superior just because you have a lot of ignoramuses, a lot of inferior beings acting together. You're going to witness the demise of all of those inferior beings at once, okay? It is currently 9:52 a.m. The Ontario Police engaging in that unlawful threat, gang stalking in plain view. This is what Corey Watson is doing, sitting in the cafe. This is what the Ontario Police Department is doing by being at the OVITT Family Community Library, where you're looking at the kidnapper, you're looking at the stalker bearing weapons, threatening your life, engaging in psychological torture. You're looking at them, monitoring you in plain view. That's exactly why they're going to federal prison. Okay, it is currently 9:52 a.m. The entity is engaging in criminal facilitation of the people of the state that are also threatening your life and safety, engaging in sexually violating you, monitoring your vagina, and then you're gang stalking me right in my face. No, the gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison. And the more that the entity engages in gang stalking in the way in which the Ontario Police Department is, right in front of the face of an American citizen, right in front of their face, as though you're going to target somebody and get away with it. They do it right in front of their face and there's no consequences. That level of impunity, that level of delusion is relevant to diagnosis and prosecution. The Ontario Police is being disbanded as surely as Paul Leon is being removed from office, because there's no airports where the Ontario International Airport is flying over his office, the City of Ontario, City Hall, where he's gang stalking me. He's monitoring me right now, and he's a sex offender monitoring my vagina all day long, while these same demons who are stalking with light are going into the bathroom to keep my vagina under surveillance. Okay, sitting outside of the bathroom in relevant position with flashing lights on. A bunch of psychopaths obsessed with my genitalia. That includes Domino's, 9GCY815. Okay, the longest pizza delivery ever. All right, the entities engaged in what is maintaining, facilitating activity creation, while the people of the state are documented as the psychopaths who are engaging in targeting, and the joke is indeed on the demons. The people of the state gang stalking with the Ontario Police include the following as well. They all are, but Ontario Police crosses past, so speaking to the immediacy of engaging in that. The entity's license plate 6TLS 427, 7KOZ 048, 9BZE 295. They're all monitoring while Domino's maintains light activity, okay? Domino's is again 9GCY 815, 8VZD 531, 8KNJ 360, license 6EWC 171, license 9PJE 905. And you'll see uploaded to the Google Drive the fake sun over the same entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library, where Ontario PD are engaging in the impermissible threat. That's how it's going to be prosecuted. It's an impermissible threat by the government that's threatening your life, acting in furtherance of murder and kidnapping you, and then going to gang stalk you in your face. That's threatening you in your face. A psychopath does it. They don't have to say anything to you. This is the ordinary targeted individual's experience where they're suffering in silence. And they're going to be criminally defamed were they to report it to somebody. Well, what do you mean? The police, did they even say anything to you? Okay, we've got a paranoid. This is how you get kidnapped. This is how the entity is engaging in targeting. The entity, and by the way, 8EAX 648. 9NWD398. The entity is engaged in what is stalking and monitoring and threatening because they're engaged in a pattern of kidnapping. But you're understanding the purpose of the specific environment and the psychological torture behind targeting and stalking in a passive-aggressive manner as a population. And then you're also understanding what is not so passive-aggressive with regard to the fake sun and the engineer light that they are molesting your person with and harassing you and terrorizing you with. And then you're just going to cruise by in a police vehicle, engaging in criminal activity. It's also because of that. You're obviously engaging in criminal conduct as though that criminal conduct is not going to be prosecuted by the feds. In addition to that, you're understanding the position of the targeted individual who is being targeted psychologically and who is also being targeted as the evidence of the environment proves. You're going to prison for that. Every gang stalking police officer, which is an oxymoron, because police officers who are competent don't have to stalk people in order to do a job, including law enforcement. This is revealing incompetence. They are being removed from law enforcement for so many reasons. All right, the entities engaged in what is gang stalking. I read your license. You're stalking. You're going to prison. Okay, and that's the same thing. The people of the state that are gang stalking with police officers, meaning you're sharing in the elements. LAPD is flying over my head, and you're just walking across the parking lot at Alvarado Gardens like they're going to prison. That entire property of Alvarado Gardens is going to federal prison. LAPD's heavily documented stalking. It was literally, like I described them, they were wearing diapers. They never took a break. They were engaged in targeting so much in the specific environment that the entity has proven itself to be not only engaged in traditional stalking and harassment, using the helicopters in the workplace and where I was living at that same apartment complex, but it's also gang stalking, and you're going to prison for gang stalking with the police. And I want to be clear, these demons who are psychopaths, they run as fast as they can. Okay, they slam on the gas with regard to going to federal prison with the entity. They're delusional. That's also relevant to their mental illness. License 1672532, that's the City of Ontario gang stalking and molesting with impossible light. The entity is doing so under the fake sun. Let me show you this right now. This is a heavy-set African-American female, vehicle 3069, license 1672532. The entity is gang stalking, molesting with impossible light. This is the same psychopathic behavior that the demons walking in and out of the cafe or Starbucks are engaging in. It's an identical pattern of conduct. And what do you see over my head? At a different location at the OVITT Family Community, I moved from the entrance and the fake sun is right over my head. That's how you're tying together what is stalking with light, and light that has nothing to do with reflecting off of a vehicle. This is a molestation by the city of Ontario, who was also stalking with helicopter as I captured this African-American woman. She's a hefty African-American woman in operation of her communication device, engaging in the federal offense of stalking, molesting me with impossible light, while this other demon surrounds 7AQE 900, an African-American couple, both vehicles, this vehicle, what is this, a Cooper, sitting under the fake sun that's remaining over me while the entity is maintaining, again, flashing light at the Metro 102 apartment. That's stalking in the path with flashing light, like Domino's is doing, and they're all sitting in their cars monitoring while a demon flashes light. And guess what's happening? The same federal prosecution. They sling light around as hostile psychopaths, demons whose witchcraft does not work, demons whose voodoo and black magic and all their spell work is ineffective. It's void and it's returned to sender. And they're also going to be prosecuted for the sexual violence inherent to stalking and molesting with impossible light while you are admittedly engaging in federal stalking. All right. And that's what this African-American woman representing the city of Ontario, which is why Paul Leon is being removed from office. OK, he's feet away from me right now, gang stalking. The Ontario City Hall. License again 1672532. This is vehicle number 3069. The City of Ontario, leading in sexual violence, leading in psychological torture, leading in harassment and terrorism as the state, the entity, gang stalking. License 9GMB639. And where you see this fake sun right now, as I captured it, it's about to be 10 o'clock. This is where the fake sun is at as I walk outside of the entrance of the same OVITT Family Community Library at 5:59, 6 p.m. Which is also how you know that this African-American is a demon-possessed. Satan doesn't have a race. He's just using her thick body, okay, with regard to crossing path with me. Satan is using all of them. This is demon possession, and their demonic conduct is going to prosecute them for criminal surveillance. 8YAM352, 9NPP 241, 9GMB639, and that's pacing while they're driving both back and forth and back and forth. That's Satan that wants to pace obsessively, and that's all they're doing inside of the library, and that's what the Ontario Police is doing by helicopter. As I document City of Ontario, the entity is sounding helicopter. All right, it's 10 a.m. All right, all of the people of the state, they're engaging in a sex offense together. This is an orgy that I did not ask to be a part of. They're all sex offenders and they're all psychopaths, stalking, monitoring. 8JTJ372 included. While the City of Ontario crosses path and molests me with radiant orange light and a supernatural occurrence while a bunch of demons are stalking together, understand that they're all touching you together in the same way that they're all monitoring you together. And that's a satanic orgy that you did not give any consent to participate in while they're monitoring and keeping you under surveillance. It's going to be prosecuted as a sex offense, and they include children in it. They include business establishments in it. And that's also going to be relevant to the prosecution of the entity that is gang stalking. It is currently 10:01 a.m. OVITT Family Community Library is gang stalking and doing so with the people of the state. This is P.O.C. Excuse me. It is currently 8:52 p.m. The entity maintaining some sort of drone over the parking garage. It's the same Ontario Police Department having a loud popping sound, like a firework or something. It's audible noise while I'm in engineer light and the people of the state are stalking with light. They're pacing around. This is lying in wait conduct. These are stalkers that are still engaging in a method of trying to target me as I walk out of the building of the library. 9EZK933. It's 8:52 p.m. 6HUX799. 8PCP556. Yeah, a bunch of stalkers sitting in their cars, meeting at the entrance. This is a stalker. License plate 9JQY487. License 9ETT910 03244Y3. CY40W64, that's a paper plate on a white Tesla stalking in the path. This is the parking garage where you see engineer light on the ceiling as I documented at 10:13 a.m. These are all stalkers monitoring. P.O.C. Yeah, sitting in the, while the entity has a drone over the parking garage building. These are all demons. They're all sitting in there waiting for whichever direction that I walk. License EE23X28, that's paper. 9GFN622, EBA66A, that's Arizona. 9BJJ511, 7ZFH302, it's 7ZFH302. That's ongoing amplified noise. Do you know the name of these apartments right here?
No, they're brand new, so I'm not sure.
Oh, so this is the parking garage for just for the Tesla, or it's not for the apartment complex?
No, the apartment complex, I believe that it's actually a couple of floors ahead.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, this is the downtown, the Ontario downtown apartments at 320 West G Street. No, excuse me, 320 Euclid Avenue, North Euclid Avenue, I believe. This is the entity that's maintaining, this is a psychopath. She's closing her doors as I'm walking around by her vehicle. This is the parking garage where they're stalking in the path right now. License, let me get this license plate. Also, yeah, stalking with the sound of her cars, monitoring with noise. 9LVYA853. It's 8:55 p.m. This is the demon there. While I am walking by her car, she's keeping her door open, making sure whichever way I move, as I'm asking her a question that I already know the answer to. And she's closing her car door. What she's focused on is maintaining activity. If she can't molest me with light, making sure that noise is occurring as I'm moving, as I move my person. That's a demon. 9STL181. 3HSF411, 9FBR541, 9JZD464. And this is the Ontario Downtown Apartments. I believe that is 320 North Euclid Avenue. That's the correct address, 9DLE808. License 8KBA490. And this is the reality of demons that are gang stalking. They are together in a group, all focused on me. Oh, she's coming outside. It's the same thing centered around my vagina. Oh, she's going in the bathroom. Oh, she's pulling down her panties. Oh, she's relieving herself. Oh, she's pulling up her that ongoing real-time knowledge, 7MVW170. Okay? That's the entity that is a sex offender as well, in other words. 9AMK019. I think I read that one already. Alrighty, it is currently 8:56 p.m. Impossible light while this demon drives by. The impossible light that is occurring outside has nothing to do with her headlights. So let me repeat her license plate. 9LYA853. P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently again 8:57 a.m. This is P.O.C. This is a stalking with impossible light activity, which is what the entity is doing when you're inside a Starbucks and they're stalking with that impossible light. That's the same thing that they're doing. It's not headlights, it's not property lights. This is engineer light. These are demons who are stalking. It's a demonic environment, and their behavior is demonic as well. Their behavior is demonic, entirely abnormal. It's currently again 8:57 p.m. and that's the parking garage. So when the entity is keeping a drone over the parking garage and maintaining noise as you walk out, that's that setup while the demons are lying in wait and they're all waiting to touch all over you with light. That's the mind state of a sex offender, by the way, that wants to touch on you while they're keeping you under surveillance. License 7PTA934, 7ULG885. License 7RGE489, 8AWB770, 8TBS123. Yeah, gang stalking at Wells Fargo, being in the parking lot, in relevant position 47023H1, and it's 8:58 p.m. And this is what OVITT Family Community Library was doing the entire time, gang stalking. License 8CPZ956. This is P.O.C. The entity is targeted by a bunch of sex offenders that are following you around all the time, always wanting to aim light, touch on you with light, and it's not even naturally occurring light. And during the day, it's not even the sun that remains over you while they're stalking with light. All they're doing is, like I stated, going around in circles, pacing around all day long, and that's what they did. As I documented the entity keeping with the fake sun over me as I'm at the OVITT Family Community Library. All right, that's the third party whose license plate I already recited. Monitoring license ONTMYR. And the fake moon is right here over the same venue where the entity kept the fake sign. Here's a fake moon right above me. I'll take a picture of that. Alrighty, I am at what C Street and Euclid. License 1613625. That's Omnitrans gang stalking. It's 8:59 p.m. at C Street in Euclid when I'm reading this. That's Omnitrans route 83 and 86 ZIM 652, I believe. And again, this is the Wells Fargo at the C Street in Euclid that I just read all these license plates where the entity keeps the fake sun right over me as I go from Starbucks. And you see that fake sun over this Wells Fargo. And also when I come to the same Wells Fargo at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been documenting since 2018. So the fake sun over this Wells Fargo, including helicopter activity, day and night. Wells Fargo is gang stalking, including while the people of the state use the venue as a means of stalking with light in the path. License 8VDG849. It's at 9:01 p.m. This is P.O.C. This is upon exit of the OVITT Family Community Library. Yeah, I read that. ONTMYR. He's got a symbol in front of it, like a heart. ONTMYR. And 6HUX799. Just driving in to drive right out because they're stalking with light. All they're doing is going in circles as a group, pacing together, stalking. It is currently 9:01 p.m. OVITT Family Community Library, that's the city of Ontario. That's at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California. At 9:03 p.m. Ontario Police gang stalking at D and Euclid. Gang stalking with the third party member of the entity has a drone over the OVITT Family Community Library. That's the same Ontario Police that's still stalking. They're being disbanded. License 8DQC621 is gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. And as I'm looking at the Ontario Police, because they're all gang stalking with the police department, license 9MNV056. The sound again of like firecrackers sounding, and the entity again doing what is supposed to be quote unquote appropriate with, oh, you're going to hear firecrackers because it's July. The entity stalks with the sound of what is reminiscent of gunshots in the middle of December. 6RRJ402, 9KZG066. Stalking with the Ontario Police Department. Ontario Police are crossing path gang stalking with ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue, with Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue. Starbucks is open, stalking in the path. They already know where I'm at. The whole entity is listening to me document, while stalkers are meeting at every intersection that I'm at, including this third party over here. Ontario Downtown Apartments, gang stalking, demons around the perimeter of the property, stalking with light. License plate 33410F4, that's an African American male. Gang stalk, Ontario Police license 591658, That's vehicle 1028. And this is license plate 1591658.
Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
Alrighty, this is Ontario Police Gang Stalking License 1591658. This is an Engineer Light. They're stalking, and this is at exit 82248C4. And the entity is gang stalking as one in Engineer Light. They're meeting at every intersection with light. This isn't traffic. In the same way that this isn't normal light activity. The entity maintaining a drone over the OVITT Family Community Library upon my exit. License 8WDC 670, I believe. And engaging in what is stalking with light in the path. That's the Ontario Police that are engaging in stalking and facilitating stalking. And the entity is doing so. Here's my shot over here. And this is Engineer Light. They're all stalking in the path with the Ontario Police. License 9RMW990, engaging in the same criminal conduct of the Ontario Police. Ontario Police engaging in what is kidnapping and exercising authority under the law, gang stalking with the people of the state. These are the demons that they pull over when they engage in criminal summoning in the same exact environment. All right, that's the pattern of conduct, and you see the Ontario Police gang stalking and Engineer Light under the fake sun, and the people of the state gang stalking and Engineer Light under the fake sun. This is Ontario Downtown Ontario Downtown Apartment. And this is Gloria's Cochinas. They're gang stalking. So is Arco, surrounded with light. So is Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue. Starbucks is in relevant position. The entity kept the fake sun from Starbucks to the OVITT Family Community Library. And this is the police department that's being disbanded, engaging the P.O.C with the people of the state. License 7GXT139. This is demonic pacing and Engineer Light. License 7RML358. This is P.O.C. That's the Ontario Police that crosses path out. They're aware that I documented them crossing path on this street right here. That's what they're always doing, driving around in the perimeter while the people of the state are stalking, and I read their license plates. And the Ontario Police, they're a bunch of stalkers, maintaining presence, pacing all around me around the perimeter. They cross path. That's, again, the intolerable threat, the impermissible threat. They're being disbanded. And they're all being removed from law enforcement as I'm documenting the P.O.C. It is currently 9:06 p.m. That's the entity engaging in repeatedly kidnapping while they are gang stalking. They're being disbanded. And again, Nathan Morgan, C. Torres, L. Martinez, and B. Hook kidnapping with this entity while they're gang stalking as a corrupt police department that's engaged in stalking under a fake moon, and during the day under a fake sun that remains right here between Starbucks and the library, where a population is gang stalking together. And these are the demon possessed. This is P.O.C. It is, again, 9:07 p.m. This is the environment where they're stalking with light. That's not the product of what is going to be under any sort of lamp structures. And this is where the entity is following with the entity that is gang stalking by the Ontario Police Department, stalking in the perimeter, while the League of Demons are stalking in the path as an entity, following as I go. And that stalking conduct is identified in that unnatural environment. This is P.O.C. License plate. Ontario Police on video gang stalking with the people. 10213F4. I can't really see that one. You can scratch that one. But license 7RIV864. But not really. I can't really see the last three. It's 9:08 p.m. License 9PER703. I can see that one. And this is just for purposes of where I'm at, stalking at C Street and D Street and Euclid, where Ontario Police are pacing as a department. That's one department that's engaging in stalking altogether with the people of the state. They're the same condition, demons monitoring together. 9PER703. This is P.O.C. And you can see my shadows on both sides. You'll see in the video the significance, the context regarding presence in an environment with the Engineer Light, where the Ontario Police are engaging in criminal monitoring, which is stalking. Stalking pursuant to knowledge about who you are in that specific environment, pursuant to surveillance, and also the shared pattern of conduct amongst the incriminating entity, the people of the state, who are always stalking and monitoring with impossible light activity. And this is also what's unintelligent, because the gang stalkers of the Ontario Police engage in criminal summoning, and they're pulling over the demon-possessed people of the state. It's the same thing in the opposite direction. The people of the state who are already exposed as demons, who are stalking, speaking to specific knowledge, while you're stalking with impossible light and while you're stalking under a fake sun. It's the shared pattern of conduct with the demon-possessed Ontario Police Department, who are stalking in that same exact specific environment and doing so in engineered light, which is not create, their police lights and whatnot do not create multiple shadows. They don't create magnified shadows, which are what the demons that are using police vehicles to engage in the demonic elements of monitoring. And they're doing it in the same exact engineered environment, and they are doing it pursuant to what is also targeting by that police department, such as making up information that's also a means of targeting, identifying specific acts by the entity. 7Y92900. P.O.C. Gang stalking immigrants, like I stated, are being deported. 7Y92900. 9EUH429. 9HLE025. 8SHY370. Stalking 7D88438. And that's 434 North Euclid Avenue and 506 North Euclid Avenue, Chevron and Arco. License 8VAR356. KS sex offender that wants to touch. 9PXY462. License license plate, let's see, 05138G2 8NRN 890 TRSHBMR. And this is the Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity has the fake sun at 6:30 in the morning, where I'm documenting California Highway Patrol stalking in the path under that supernatural maintenance of a fake sun, in perfect alignment with the Starbucks, where it still remains as I document at 6 p.m. DREAMZ1. P.O.C. 9SSJ432. Stalking in engineer light, filling up your gas tank in engineer light. Those are the demons that are not slick or crafty or anything. They're stalking. Spending $1 while you're gang stalking is the state of California's pattern of conduct. License plate. I can't really see that one. It's currently 9:11 p.m. Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue is gang stalking right now. Everybody inside of that venue is targeting. They're engaged in federal stalking under Title 18. They've proven that, and they are doing so right now while the people are stalking, and that establishment is in relevant position. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, who are pacing all around a relevant position off of FEDC, Euclid, Laurel, pacing all around Lemon in relevant position, while the people of the state that I'm documenting are crossing path. License. And that's relevant to the video that you just listened to, while the Ontario Police engage in gang stalking by sitting there in plain view to be documented, which is the ease with which the Ontario Police have been exposed for gang stalking, while they demonstrate impunity and malice, because they certainly are not appearing innocent or ignorant while they're engaging the P.O.C. for me to document their license plate. License plate, stalking with light, 8MQH188. 8MQH188 at F Street and Euclid. At El Pescador, G Street, Crab and Fish, the name of these restaurants, they're all monitoring. The entity is stalking as a population, so the population is aware of where you're at while they're all gang stalking. Before you get to a destination, the gang stalkers already know where you're at. And this is an entity that is in relevant position, so I'm naming those establishments because they are monitoring. 9KMP 104. They're gang stalking right along with the Ontario Police that's stalking in the path with the rest of the people of the state, molesting at every corner, meeting at every intersection. 8JMT 729. Gang stalking with the entity that engages in using a drone as I walk outside of the OVITT Family Community Library. 9NGP820, 9LIW963, 9NYT808, 8VKR937, 8ZNJ919. It's 9:14 p.m. License 8NJG176, 23275W3. License plate 9PHY464. License plate 8RSC778. License plate 7VPS897. License DF70G60, that's paper. License 8GCC082. I'll get that license plate in a second. And El Pescador is at G Street and Euclid. They are always monitoring. I'm just walking through the parking lot tonight to document specifically the demon-possessed, the corrupt population, engaging in criminal monitoring, and federal stalking with the City of Ontario, the state of California, and specifically the Ontario Police Department, 9JOB 504. When I'm at the plaza, at the gym at 130 West G Street, they're relevant position monitoring. While the Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking by helicopter, El Pescador is in relevant position monitoring 49240Y3. While those demons are stalking in the path, molesting with light, El Pescador and everybody in the parking lot at that establishment is in relevant position monitoring 7KIW845, 7TQM621, 7RLJ472, and everything that I just documented, including the Ontario Police engaging in what is the communication of an unlawful threat. It's an impermissible threat. While they're engaging in surveillance, the stalker listens to me document the fact that they're stalking me, and then they come into your visible presence for you to encounter that stalker in that specific environment. That's all manner of a threat that the Ontario Police Department just engaged in on video, and I'm documenting it. They are subject to what is disbanding and federal prison for gang stalking demons of that department. 6JXL535. El Pescador is monitoring with all that. It's the same population. 9MIM254, 9UAV615. License ZWJ7284, which is Pennsylvania. 8XIS 094. GN333 8N33339. 6ZVY928, 8BJH319, 9SGE073, EE49T07, that's paper. 9DIT907, 8DSH348, 8NUH249. Yeah, this is El Pescador, where these vehicles are parked over here. DH06J24, that's paper. 9RQF333, 9SGV105, 29767F3. License 8CDK856, 9TOH745. Yeah, the bucket, crab, and crawfish, they're gang stalking. 9FXM555. And the fake moon is over my head at this venue where I'm walking through the parking lot documenting these license plates. It's the specific environment. Stalking in that parking lot relevant to the P.O.C. 7SMG547, in case I didn't read that one already. It's 9:17 p.m. And by the way, I've documented the entity stalking under the fake sun. El Pescador is a facilitating venue under the fake sun at all hours of the day. Sunrise during the 6 a.m. morning, afternoon sun, 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the entity keeping a fake sun setting. At Woodside Senior Apartments, it remains a relevant position, monitoring me, gang stalking a part of the entity while in relevant position at Woodside Senior Apartments, while in relevant position at TABOR Professional Building. In the even bigger picture, in the City of Ontario at the OVITT Family Community Library, this is a gang stalking establishment. and they are monitoring with the City of Ontario, as are the people of the state. License 17870M2 9UGZ018. It's P.O.C. The entity that's willingly and openly engaging in stalking in the path, that terrorism that I document as I walk outside of a venue, and the entity engages in the lying in wait conduct. Oh, here she comes, and everybody's molesting with light. The entire City of Ontario is engaging in that pattern of conduct, including the demons that I just documented. CV24C19 paper. License plate 9ALV469, I believe. And they're all in that restaurant, and they know they were listening. They're aware that they are being documented right now, as is the case with the entity that is gang stalking. They're not ignorant while they're engaging in surveillance, and that's all relevant to a prosecution as well. License 9JMF042. They're stalking at the traffic lights, molesting as the entity is controlling the traffic lights. You already know how this goes. I'm documenting them doing this at Starbucks all day long. 9FOY663, while the entity keeps a fake sun that never exceeds E Street in Euclid and never leaves the building of Starbucks while I'm at that venue. The entity is controlling the traffic lights, which is a mode of light activity as well. Light activity that is also controlled while the demons step on their brakes and step on their gas, monitoring me in every move that I make. Touching with light, following with light, invading with light. This is relevant to harassment, psychological torture, terrorism, especially while the entity is keeping you under surveillance through that light, which is not naturally occurring. You're looking in the physical of what is a manifestation of light, such as a traffic light or a headlight or a building light or a street lamp, and then you're looking at what is the engineer light. In the same way, you're looking at the fake sun, and then you're looking at what is engineer light that's all over the place, such as on the ceiling inside of the parking garage. That's not sunlight on the ceiling inside of a parking garage, nor is any of the sunlight that they're present in. That's the unintelligent system, and it makes it very obvious. These are demons that are stalking with light, and they're going to be prosecuted for sexual violence. They're going to be prosecuted for terrorism, for harassment, for stalking. License, I can't really see that one. It's currently 9:21 p.m. This is at the Mission Furniture at G Street in Euclid, across from the El Pescador, where the entity is again engaging in terrorism, stalking at night. What the entity does, the way in which the entity does it, and my status as the entity engages in is all relevant to how they're going to be prosecuted. License plate 8UQY186. That's why it's relevant when my panties are down and you're stalking. It's relevant when I'm being molested with light and you're stalking. It's relevant when I'm in a private space and you're stalking, such as my hotel room. It's relevant when I'm in a facilitating venue, such as a library, and you're stalking, and the way in which you do so, and also what you state, what you communicate, expressly and impliedly. It's all impliedly. It's all relevant to how the entity is going to be prosecuted, which is exactly why I refer to those details. And it's all relevant to the context of the Ontario Police, a repeat serial kidnapper, gang stalking with them. License plate, gang stalking by them. License 9SCL124. Molesting with light, meeting in the path as I'm walking on G Street. Understand, every license plate also represents the Ontario Police Department. It's vicarious state action. The Ontario Police that is being disbanded. Stalking in the path with light at what is, that would be, this is 123 West G Street. Stalking in the path in alignment to me on G Street. Like the entity does when I'm walking down Laurel and the demons are in the parking lot, the shopping plaza, with their headlights aimed toward me. This is what the demon possessors are doing while they're stalking with light. And that ominous stalking, that late night stalking and aiming some sort of light, that's demonic. It's demonstrating mental illness by stalkers. License. And it's, I can't see that license plate. And it's relevant to demonstrating that mental illness, and it's relevant to the pattern of conduct that's shared by an entity. All right. This is where this fake church is located. They're all fake churches in California, by the way. California's full of demons. License 9JLP684 is molesting with light. That's a sex offender. And I have 4 shadows in front of me. Well, I'm going to read the license plate of the sex offender aiming light on behalf of the Ontario Police, who are engaging in surveillance through the people of the state and all the establishments, as I'm documenting from the OVITT Family Community Library. All right, stalking the path with hazard lights on. That's light activity, very demonic. They're engaging in what are methods of peculiarized light in that engineered environment. That's the context. Yeah, the address is 215 West G Street, the fake church. 9NJB782. Gang stalking Latinos, elderly people, subject for deportation, P.O.C. 9NJB782. All right, this is the mental health patient that I documented stalking with light activity using the bright flashlight while I was at the TABOR professional building. He is gang stalking, again, license 9NJB782. He's the one that is parked on the sidewalk, aiming engineer light, a psychopath that's stalking me and maintaining a conversation, and that's supposed to maintain an appearance that they're not going to. That's a psychopath that's engaging in targeting. And I documented his mental illness on video while he's stalking with the Ontario Police Department. Again, gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments as a resident, 9NJB782. License 8PFH 363, 5MVM616, 5399384. Skateboard is crossing path and audible activity while the entity is stalking with flashing light and engineer light. They're monitoring together. License 7SEN160. License 6ZNK111. And it is currently 9:25 p.m. Nine MOY 5. I can't really see that. You can scratch that one. And it's 9:25 p.m. Documenting the entity stalking documenting the entity stalking me as I go from place to place. 9SKS586. And the entity amplifying plane activity, flashing of light in the sky space as well. I'm going to show you this. Alrighty, that you'll see the images. I'm at Palm and Euclid. And the entity, while I'm reading the license plate of that demon that does reside at Woodside Senior Apartments, that entire property is being prosecuted. That entire property is losing their all of their benefits. They're all receiving welfare in a form of government benefits, getting some sort of reduction to their rent while they're engaging in domestic terrorism with the City of Ontario. And this is in violation of federal law while they are engaged in the Violence Against Women Act, both as I was remaining as an occupant at Woodside Senior Apartments, and they will also be prosecuted as engaging in violence against women while they are gang stalking anybody while remaining at a HUD regulated property where violence against women is disincentivized. License 9GRR 056, I believe, but you can scratch that because I couldn't see the fourth character clearly. But the Ontario, the City of Ontario is gang stalking. That's the government that is monitoring with every single resident, including the employees of Woodside Senior Apartments, who are gang stalking with the City of Ontario, including while I'm walking, and they are remaining as residents. And I just happen to know that because I've documented the violence of that property while being there and also being kidnapped by the same gang stalker. Okay, this is, again, Linda Reyes is going to federal prison. She's gang stalking on the job while she's targeting as the property manager at that company. And Avanath Capital Management is engaging in that P.O.C. while the fake sun remains over Starbucks, for example, all day. It was never the sun that she was crossing path under at Woodside. And she's going to federal prison for the direct evidence of that. And this is how you're going to use the evidence of the stalker that's always engaging in following you around, and you document it. And then they are incapable of reconciling that environment that they're stalking you with, which is documentation also of terrorism. Keeping a fake sun and stalking with impossible light is a documentation of what is domestic terrorism, while you are being kept under surveillance, and the entity is always admitting to its criminal engagement in gang stalking. The impossible light and the fake sun, and the presence in the path by psychopaths who engage in passive aggressive conduct while they're targeting you, like talking to each other and not acknowledging you, while they're supposed to be strangers who are oblivious to your presence, and strangers who are delusional, while all the evidence of them targeting you is on the record. License plate, and their delusion is also documented in the form of they keep stalking anyway. License plate 7WGW302, and it's currently 9:28 p.m. So I want to be clear that third party that I read his license plate, he is a resident at Woodside, and he is stalking in the path, molesting and creating light activity. That's criminal facilitation, massive facilitation. Everybody at the Pescador restaurant that I documented are monitoring while the people of the state are maintaining that facilitation. They are doing so with regard to the Woodside Senior Apartments resident who is on video gang stalking. He's exhibiting mental illness while you see him with a flashlight. It's reflecting off of his Side view mirrors. This is impossible light activity. This is very demonic. You're looking at a demon in that video, maintaining light activity, and their behavior with the light is very it's very disturbing. That's a demon-possessed person that begins acting out. So his speaking loudly and using the flashlight while he's digging in his car, and he's doing so with regard to stalking, and it's while the Ontario police are gang stalked by helicopter. Ontario police are equally disturbed. They're psychopath stalking, as I just documented, coming from the OVITT Family Community Library. All the people of the state are gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, who also arrived in order to be documented to be sure that they are stalking in the path, which you don't need in order to prosecute any city police where that city is engaged in this criminal system. But the Ontario Police, it's inevitable. They're going to be disbanded for repeatedly kidnapping, and they're also going to be disbanded for still targeting, as the evidence shows, for a prolonged period after they've already been exposed and documented. That's directly relevant to prosecuting any government, and a federal court is going to pay specific attention to such details. All right, the documentation of an American citizen and the entity that is responding with ongoing unlawful threats, such as stalking right in your face like the Ontario Police Department do in the specific environment, such as the people of the state do with that Ontario Police Department, doing so in a manner that's delusional. They're in their crime scene. The environment is already known, and they're doing so in a manner that is psychopathic, not in any manner that's rebutting the evidence of gang stalking. That's their demonstration of being malicious psychopaths, and that's going to be also a disqualification from law enforcement. It's inevitable. They're engaged in federal stalking. You're disqualified from law enforcement. You're not going to be in law enforcement anymore. You're going to be prosecuted, and they're also being disbanded because of the kidnapping and the repeated acts of kidnapping, while the entity has sought to use corrupt courts, the people of the state bearing false witness, criminal acts of maintaining secret conservatorships that are invalidly created. They're literally artificial. They're fake. They're as fake as the sun, but the entity is referring to them while they're gang stalking me, and demons like the Ontario Police Department are providing evidence about what is the entity's purpose in the first place. This is also evidence that's putting Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks in prison. Okay, soliciting the government in targeting me, and you have the entity that is stalking by all manner, and also that's all already terrorism, but the entity they're a bunch of demons whose behavior is entirely demented as well. They're perverts who are even stalking in bathrooms, and the entity is doing so in a manner with the police that are engaging in an ongoing effort to kidnap you in one way or another while they're stalking you. This is why the people of the state, such as Jason Fields, Eric Corey Spencer, Tracy Banks, are going to federal prison. Okay, and that's how any case for gang stalking is going to go. The entity is targeting as one, and those that are in the social circle, meaning the targeting individual, whoever their friends are, whoever their so-called family members are, those are the first ones going to prison. All right, it's currently 9:32 p.m. This is P.O.C. at the TABOR Professional Building, the Ontario International Airport, sounding plane activity when I'm at Palm and G Street, which is audible activity while the people of the state, including this gang stalking resident of Woodside Senior Apartments, who's at 215 West G Street in front of the fake church, stalking in the path, molesting with light, which is what the demons are doing. When I come from Euclid Avenue and I turn onto F Street and then I turn onto Laurel, the entity is aiming light toward me from across the street from the plaza, where they're aiming light from that direction. Because I came from G Street, this is the entity's purpose in aiming light and stalking in the path off of G Street, aiming toward me. So it's based on where I'm coming from while they are stalking in the path. Again, pursuing, maintaining light while they're monitoring. That's what this demonic conduct with light is: stalking with light, waiting in the dark. This ominous stalking with the method of light, and it's not even light activity that's a result of their headlights. Headlights are not that which are going to be blinding. Even their brights are not going to create multiple shadows and shadows that are magnified in size. This is the entity, the same exact engineer light, where they are clearly identified as stalking pursuant to criminal monitoring. And it's all going to incriminate any law enforcement agency in Ontario. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded, and all of the facets of their corruption is being exposed as well. Psychopaths that are aware that they've been documented, and then that psychopath comes and communicates a direct threat by stalking in your face, like I documented on video. Okay, the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct night, like I documented also today at the OVITT Family Community Library at 9:49 a.m. As I'm referring to the Ontario Police, those stalkers that are engaging in surveillance via the people of the state, cross path under that fake sun at the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library, where the fake sun is still there at 5:59 p.m. at that same entrance. And that's the demon-possessed, the Ontario Police Department, repeatedly kidnapping, repeatedly making malicious assertions regarding why they are committing kidnapping. And they're doing so while they're crossing path. That's an unlawful threat by a stalker. And that stalker is wearing a Ontario Police Department uniform where they exercise authority under the law that they do not have under the state and federal constitutions to commit what is an unlawful threat, psychological torture, pursuant to federal stalking, aware in real time that they're identified as stalking, and then to stalk in the face of an American citizen. That's the ongoing admission of being engaged in the P.O.C. It is under no circumstances any sort of evidence rebutting the unlawful threat. That unlawful threat is posed by being engaged in state surveillance in the first place as a corrupt police department, which the specific environment proves, repeatedly engaging in a pattern of kidnapping, which any American citizen is going to reasonably be fearful of and harassed by and terrorized by, in fear of what is loss of your liberty, where you are being targeted by that corrupt police department. The entity engages in stalking in plain sight like it does at that same OVITT Family Community Library entrance at 1:07 p.m. While the demon of the Ontario Police Department, that Latino male whose license plate and vehicle number I read at 9:49 a.m., that's the same entrance where that fake sun sits, and that entire department gang stalking by helicopter and gang stalking by many of the Ontario Police Departments that are driving vehicles, engaging in kidnapping like Corey Watson at various times of the day at that same venue. They're being documented as a department engaging in this demonic system of gang stalking while they've been engaged in surveilling the evidence the entire time. They're going to federal prison for that. The entity's engaging in what is gang stalking and claiming that you're ignorant. Oh, I didn't know. I was just gang stalking in the specific environment, but I didn't know that the target individual just identified the Ontario Police Department in an effort to threaten that target individual. I was just targeting the individual because I was gang stalking under the same exact specific environment, not pursuant to real-time documentation under Title 18 federal stalking. They're going to federal prison either way. They don't have an argument. They're going to federal prison. The entity is gang stalking in a specific environment, and they are maintaining real-time knowledge about everything I do, including my vagina in the bathrooms where the people of the state are stalking. Okay? Stalking in bathrooms. That's what sex offenders do. And that's what the Ontario Police Department engage in. And that's what they just engage in, stalking from place to place as an entire entity, and their mental illness exhibited by this monitoring, tracking, following, molesting with engineered light. Mentally demented, psychopathic, obsessive behavior with engineered light. It's not even normal light that they're obsessively aiming on me while they're all stalking. And all the license plates that I document represent the people of the state that include those third parties, but it's the entire city of Ontario. As I'm in Ontario, as I've also documented in every other city, the state of California is gang stalking in the way that the city of Ontario is being exposed and prosecuted as a city, a corrupt one. It is currently, again, 9:36 p.m. This is putting Jason Isaac Fields in federal prison. This is the evidence against him maintaining a secret marriage that is with myself, a secret marriage with Tracy Banks. He did so in order to steal property from me, and he's going to federal prison for it. And it's the same with Tracy Banks. She's going to federal prison for what she committed was kidnapping upon gang stalking and having a secret conservatorship in the first place. She's going to prison. The demon-possessed who are her co-defendant are incriminating her, and she and the Ontario Police Department, those kidnappers on May 29th on video, engaging in what is audible activity, making up information as they're monitoring, they're going to federal prison, every single last one of them. Tracy Banks, Nathan Morgan, C. Torres, L. Martinez, and B. Hook, who are gang stalking as a department, as I'm documenting Ontario Police every day and every night in a specific environment. This is P.O.C. It's 9:37 p.m. This is where the entity plane activity. This is not a takeoff. This is just being present in the sky space, in the engineered light, monitoring with the people of the state who are doing so in that same specific environment. Taking off from terminals 2500 Airport Drive is not resulting in flight over 325 West G Street. And it's certainly not at any elevation where I can see the large plane, where you're going to hear the plane. This is the same common sense analysis where the entity is engaging in what is stalking with the Ontario Police Department and the Ontario International Airport, which are maintaining aerial surveillance while the people are, these are the same demons stalking with impossible light. All right, they're doing so where this is obvious surveillance. I've got one arm, you can see two. This is surveillance that the city of Ontario is engaging in. The entity is taking off over the OVITT Family Community Library parking lot. Taking off from there is necessarily suspending, rising in elevation to be at what is northwest from that location, flying even farther away from that location, which is also deviating from taking off from the airport. The entity does this while it's engaging what is clear suspension of elevating, taking off from the airport at 325 West G Street in engineered light, where the entity is doing that same conduct over 636 636 Holt Boulevard, which is the Stater Brothers parking lot, where the entity is maintaining the same exact engineered light and a fake sun, where they are again suspending throughout the city to engage in what is this taking off over the Stater Brothers parking lot. The entity is stalking with commercial planes. The entity is stalking in the sky space and has no other means, and certainly no intelligent means, to engage in just blatant stalking. The entity is stalking with the people of the state using planes and helicopters, which is psychopathic. It's an extreme means of stalking one person. It's entirely corrupt and demented, and it is also expensive and timely. And this is speaking to the far and extreme lengths that the government is going to stalk and target one person. And the entity is not manufacturing mental illness. The entity is demonstrating its own mental illness while the entity is going to be prosecuted. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison for the City of Ontario gang stalking me while she's maintaining a secret conservatorship, and so is her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields. It is currently 9:40 p.m. This is the entity, the Ontario police are gang stalking as I documented them on video. The people of the state gang stalking with the City of Ontario as I document on podcast and on video. This is P.O.C. It's 9:40 p.m. This is the demon that was stalking with Peculiarized Light, Woodside Senior Apartments resident. He's on the podcast documented, engaging in what is facilitation with the City of Ontario. P.O.C. All right, the City of Ontario gang stalking with much louder plane activity than what you hear or what you can see on the video. And that's because the demons are aware that I'm processing the podcast. And so I took a screenshot of that, what I'm doing on my device when the entity is stalking with amplified plane activity, crossing path, and monitoring with the people of the state. Loud roaring plane engines as though a plane is taking off over 325 West G Street, which it's not. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct of monitoring, engaging in federal stalking, which is what the Ontario International Airport, L&D, WAPNER are engaging in. They're engaged in federal stalking while they're monitoring me and also monitoring my evidence as I'm processing the podcast, as I engage in publishing, etc. This is what the entity is doing. Using commercial planes at the same venue, and noted is at 9:48 p.m. when the entity does so, it's doing it while the entity is aware that it's not being recorded. So the plane activity is louder than what you see in the video. In what you hear on the podcast, the plane activity is louder, the louder roaring engine, which is all audible activity. It's also relevant to harassment, terrorism. The entity that's engaging in loud audible activity that's monitoring you is engaging in what is harassment and terrorism via amplification. The entity that's molesting you with impossible light activity is engaging in what is molestation, harassment, and terrorism while they're monitoring you. And this is pursuant to also that which is malicious while they're monitoring you and you are documenting them. And so that audible activity is louder. That impossible light activity is more frightening and more impossible, more demonic, more psychopathic, it's weirder and creepier. That's the entity that's engaging in that P.O.C. while demons are monitoring at the same time that they're being exposed for domestic terrorism, for criminal surveillance. It's currently 9:50 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, the entity sounding helicopter activity like it was this morning when the heavy set female inside of the City of Ontario vehicle under the fake sun is gang stalking by molesting me with impossible light. That's the outward demonstration of demon possession, and it's an act of terrorism, and it's also sexually violent because a stalker is touching you with their demonic light while they're keeping you under surveillance. As I documented her and I got images of her face, she is stalking and monitoring and threatening me with the Ontario police, which I documented. This is the entity sounding helicopter activity right now as well at 9:51 p.m. at the TABOR Professional Building. 8YRA265. License 5GMR360. License 5UCW330. 8LMC421. Tracy Banks is parked on the curb out here, 9HUZ740. License 9JMH866. 7WON118. FH696 handicap. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. She's gang stalking with her co-defendant that she summoned in order to commit kidnapping. 4LTC526. She's going to federal prison any way you flip that. that defendant in particular is going to prison. It is currently 9:52 p.m. and so is her sex partner Tracy Banks is engaging in a long-term sexual relationship with Jason Isaac Fields, who is essentially a stranger to me, somebody that has again, the way that these laws are necessarily going to change while I'm showing how unconstitutional they are. Any ragged dog having sex with somebody in your family is then supposedly some sort of benefactor from your property because you're having sex with Tracy, or you're having sex with the judge or something. For YEC 245, this is ridiculous with regard to what I've been documenting and what the entity has committed. Jason Isaac Fields is literally irrelevant in my life. I don't even talk to this homosexual, and he's engaging in this pattern of conduct and stealing my property, and did so through whatever means. But there is law that provides for anybody that's a quote unquote a friend of yours, which they can claim unilaterally, clearly the entity that's gang stalking me while maintaining a secret and fraudulently procured marriage while I'm being gang stalked, and a secret and invalid conservatorship pursuant to no mental illness. And gang stalking does not create mental illness. Gang stalking is criminal conduct by a government that's targeting. That's not the mental illness on the part of any American citizen. Engineer light all over the property while these demons are pacing. I'm getting ready to document a whole bunch of the people of the state. They're stalking from place to place. I'm going to document more of the people of the state that engaged in stalking right now by the Ontario Police Department. All right, the entity is stalking while they are being documented at the same time. So they are doing harm to themselves. License 4MPB 472, stalking with light. License plate 8VJS 059, all of them molesting while they're stalking. And this is the criminal conduct of Tracy Banks and the state of California. Corrupt judges and corrupt courthouses, like I've documented, by the way, the San Bernardino courthouse, the Rancho Cucamonga courthouse, replete with the fake sun over my head, gang stalking by helicopter at both courthouses, the P.O.C. engaging in what is evasion of service of process, this same entity that's gang stalking. License 8 HIL 678, and engaging in what are the multiple acts by this same Ontario police that's being disbanded. Theft of my personal property, and then that courthouse engaging in, first of all, what is the denial of legal relief that I'm entitled to, even as I bring a case against the state, which was a mode of prosecution, a documentation, because the court doesn't have any legitimacy. They're gang stalking. But I did file a case against the people of the state, the tow company, that's the people of the state that's gang stalking, acting with the Ontario police, and the entity engaging in what is denial of legal relief after the people of the state did not respond timely to my case. And the entity maintained a whole fake case while I wasn't even participating in it anymore, after the rules of the court require that you give default judgment. And they denied default judgment, having no basis to do so, and then just continued on a case where I'm the one that initiated the case, and I'm not participating anymore because they're criminals. So I got the evidence that I needed, and the entity, Daniela Coutura, of that gang stalking venue in Upland, California, the law corporation that I'm documenting while they're engaging in what is the pattern of conduct, as I have the fake sun over that law office, and that law office is engaging in what is targeting me by maintaining a fictitious case where they don't have authority, engaging in federal stalking, knowing every move that I'm making while the entity is engaged in surveillance. And this is the entity that aided in theft of my vehicle, and they're gang stalking now. License 9NNH 682, license 8HIL 922 has been engaged in targeting for years. These third parties at 717 North Vine Avenue, 7KPS 205, 9LIW 650, 5YNB 1, that's a dark license plate, 5YNB 143, 8RML 960, 9NLM 317, 5CLC 549, 98300Z2. They're all gang stalking with the Ontario police on a nightly basis. The entity is stalking by helicopter. This apartment complex is engaged in surveillance with the city of Ontario, 8ZWH088. And they are, while I just documented the entity sounding helicopter activity, which is audible activity, they're also gang stalking with the city of Ontario, because the city of Ontario has no terminals over here where they're flying over any of these houses, and certainly not at a low elevation like I'm documenting. And then having roaring plane engines, that's all activity creation at that, while the entity is engaging in what is keeping evidence against itself under surveillance, and also still persisting in stalking and doing so. This is 717 North Vine Avenue. License 85199E1, 8SEL481. This is 717 North Vine Avenue, so that's 713 North Vine Avenue. Woodside Senior Apartments is already heavily documented, so they're built in. I've already established that they're gang stalking. License 97435C1. License plate 59929K3, 6Y70215. 8PBA 230. 549TA, that's a handicap plate. 5WJZ 300. This same neighborhood gang stalking the entire time as of 2024 when I'm remaining in the, that's audible activity and light activity. When I'm remaining at Woodside Senior Apartments, all of these streets, all of these streets and all of this neighborhood engaging in what is monitoring me and my vagina inside of Tracy Banks' apartment with the Ontario police that kept a fake sun, not over any of these houses, but over Tracy Banks' apartment while they're stalking in the path by residents and while they're gang stalking as a neighborhood just like they are now, okay? License 6WVW155, 9CIN174, 9MPN 673, 9MRN 673. And stalking in the path with light. I'm gonna document the address and the license plates. License plate, hold on. And they're aiming light, again, doing so while the entity sounds loud firecrackers, which is, again, the City of Ontario gang stalking and engaging in what they state is unlawful sounding firecrackers. The Ontario Police Department is gang stalking to it. DF64D72, that's paper. And this is at, 747 North Vine Avenue. The people of the state at 747 North Vine Avenue. In Ontario, California, 91762. 7VWT838, KMR 5619, which is North Carolina. And it's 10 p.m. So they're stalking in the path, pulling up to the curb, keeping their lights aimed toward me. The loud firecracker goes off, and this is where the entity then is. That's the elements of monitoring while they're stalking in the path simultaneously, and that's where then they're getting out their car, crossing the path, going into the venue. That is, again, the people of the state at 741 North Vine Avenue. 8 VAS 539 67004N3. All right, the entity that's monitoring through such conduct, that's harassment. While the entity is engaging in that, that's the entity that's engaging in criminal monitoring. So everything that the entity is doing is pursuant to real-time knowledge as well. 7VWT838, 9JZN135, 9KHY210, 9MAH868, 8UQA458. And the entity keeping the fake moon over me as I'm crossing path, and all these demons inside of their homes are engaged in criminal monitoring. They're also, while the people of the state are stalking on the roads and the highways, maintaining activity creation outside. 6VUP884. They're doing this while I'm inside of Woodside Senior Apartments and Tracy Banks' apartment. They're doing this while I'm at the TABOR Professional Building, 9CIT884. This is I'm going around and I'm getting license plates of the demon possessed. They've been engaged in monitoring in Ontario and on this street. It's all in relevant position to Woodside, just to give you an example of them monitoring a woman in a private space, in doing so pursuant to federal stalking with the police department, heavily documented, which is proof that they are stalking in their homes. Where you are engaged in criminal monitoring, you are stalking in your home. And it's a means of easily identifying you. It's not a means of any sort of defense. License 9RRB510. This is why the Ontario police are flying in helicopter over Tracy Banks' apartment, where the fake sun is exclusive to her apartment, rising and setting at Woodside. And all you do is document, because then those same imbeciles keep a fake sun over somewhere like Starbucks and over OVITT Family Community Library all day, and there's no provision for the sun to ever be at Woodside Senior Apartments. All you do is document that. License 24703S3, it's irreconcilable. License 8UZV289. Just like Los Angeles and Ontario, 8JJK875. And these are the demons monitoring on a nightly basis, every day. All I'm doing is walking down the street, and I want to remind you about the people of the state who are being prosecuted. for state surveillance. Monitoring while I'm inside a Starbucks all day long. Molesting with impossible light. Monitoring while they're pacing at the C Street turn circle, while the fake sun's over me at the OVITT Family Community Library, walking by their homes and documenting their license plates, which is merely a sample of the people that say they're going to be prosecuted. 9NHP094, engaging in terrorism with the Ontario Police every day, stalking with helicopters. It's the people of the state, license 9DRK954 included. It is currently 10:03 p.m. The entity, the federal government is going to go right to the facilitating venues where the people of the state reside, and you're going to prosecute them. Going right where the demons live. 6SOU046. And that's what the entity forgets when they're gang stalking at places like Starbucks, that the federal prosecution is going to meet the people of the state where they live. License wherever they remain. License 9MRL566. And it's currently 10:04 p.m. That's the entity monitoring where they live, sounding train activity. The demons are in their homes monitoring. Um, 96329H3. And license 014970B as in boy. License 7EXJ274. License 5CTC485. 5CIC485. 9JSK372. They're monitoring while the Ontario International Airport maintains planes over in relevant position to me at 325 West G Street, while the entity is molesting with impossible light, while the entity is stalking in the middle of the night, engaging in criminal summoning in front of me by the Ontario Police, like I documented at 12 o'clock in the morning today. The people of the state are gang stalking with the Ontario Police, targeting with them, engaging in terrorism with them. License 8PMN873. They are co-defendants. They're one entity, and I'm documenting them specifically by license plate. License 8TMP091. It's currently 10:05 p.m. And by the way, this is also a location where the Ontario International Airport would not be hovering over these houses either. This is what the entity is doing, stalking as an entire entity. License 7WOY893. 25446U3. And you're understanding why Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. This is where numerosity is going to be taken into account with regard to the illegality, the malice, the unlawful threat posed by the people of the state, such as Tracy Banks, soliciting the government, which is the people of the state in the shoes of the government, targeting me with every household in the city of Ontario while I'm being gang stalked. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. You're going to federal prison for that. 8HAR665. While the entity is flying in circles over me at Starbucks at 706 West Hope Boulevard, and the entity is doing so in furtherance of Tracy Banks' fake conservatorship, Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. 3SA7RT. And that is an Arizona plate? Yes, Arizona. The entity is sounding sirens again. It's criminal summoning at 614. This is where I'm at. 614, license 61578A2. Alrighty, gang stalking with the City of Ontario, 8562576. License 9PER800. The entity engaging in what is amplifying train activity, criminal summoning, and also plane activity, which you're never going to hear if the planes are taking off from the airport. This is very common sense. You cannot hear, and you're not going to hear the train everywhere in Ontario. The actual train, Union Pacific, Metrolink, they're not even necessarily running when the entities engage in that demonic method of just maintaining noise in the environment. And doing so while I'm walking down the street is evidence that the people that say that I'm already documenting are indeed gang stalking. I can't really see that one. It is currently where the entity is doing so, however, at 10:08 p.m. All right, the entity is gang stalking by Ontario police as well. This is exactly why you're documenting, and I'm putting it on my podcast because this population is being prosecuted. 9 PGF 140. This is the entity that flies over Starbucks. As much as Starbucks is in the body of evidence, especially post June 3rd, 2025, the entity provides that evidence, and it's going right into the federal case against that police department, against that city, against that company. That's the entity that engages in stalking very heavily in helicopters, incriminating the people of the state that are being documented right now. 9 PGF 140, I read that one. Stalking with the people of the state that drive down this street. They're monitoring with the police that are in helicopter as I'm documenting all these defendants right here. License plate. Gang stalking with their neighbor. It's the same entity, 5WBU 408. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. In furtherance of murder and kidnapping, remember what the entity is doing and why it's doing it. And also Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. This is terrorism that you are going to federal prison for. License plate. Let's get the people of the state on the opposite side of the street. And I also want to get this street because this is 614. Document the address. Everybody on this street stalking in the past, in the middle of the street, obsessively stalking. As I go down a different street, you're paying attention to the entity, maintaining activity creation as I go and document the people of the state. Because this is what they're doing as I'm walking from the library, engaging in targeting. License. Yeah, that's 614 H Street, where the entity is engaged in criminal summoning, sounding plane activity, and the entity is pacing by helicopter. That's activity creation. And right above is the Ontario Police Department. That's P.O.C. This is crossing path. 8SYZ 938. The entities engaging in monitoring together. The Ontario police are in relevant position. The Ontario International Airport also crossing path by flying. This is H as in Henry Street. There's no planes that are taking off over G Street, over F Street, over this is H Street, H as in Henry. The entity is maintaining activity as I am documenting. As I walk over here, this is San Antonio, and the entity is keeping what is activity. As I walk here, this is when this demon pulls up. This is the lying in wait conduct, activity creation while the police are in relevant position, monitoring to the use of music, regard to audible noise, and the entity stalking clearly by helicopter, which is what they're doing at Starbucks. This is what they're doing at the OVITT Family Community Library. This is what they're doing at the Woodside Senior Apartments. This is what they're doing at the TABOR Professional Building, and they're using a spotlight, which is light activity, and they're doing so focusing on where I am at. This is the obvious stalking conduct by the Ontario Police Department that is being disbanded. The Ontario Police that's gang stalking under the 9:49 a.m. fake sun at the OVITT Family Community Library. That is a Latino male. I documented the vehicle and the license. He's going to federal prison. I documented the Ontario Police Department gang stalking at the intersection of Euclid Avenue and D Street. I documented on video the vehicle number and the license plate filled with two passengers, a driver and a passenger. That's federal prison. The Ontario Police Department gang stalking at 12 o'clock this morning in Engineer Light, right where I'm at the TABOR Professional Building, where the entity flies over me by helicopter. And this relevant positioning is based on where I'm at right here. And these are the demons stalking with light in the specific environment. They're driving in Engineer Light. And as I go down a new street, and I put that in air quotes, a new street, on 8th Street, this is all podcasts, documenting their license plate. This is where the entity begins flying in relevant position by helicopter. And you're looking at the same demonic pacing in circles. All right. This is incriminating everybody that I just documented. This entire neighborhood is gang stalking. But I just documented everybody on 8th Street, H as in Henry. They will be specifically documented via podcast so that you're aware of who the Ontario Police is gang stalking me with while they threaten me, while the police department engage in helicopter activity as I document them by license plate. And I will also include their addresses. License 9RYM 9RYH 923. I'm going to include their addresses in addition to the license plates, and the entity begins pacing in helicopter as I'm documenting them. It is currently 10:13 p.m. at what is 8th Street and San Antonio. So this address right here is the site with regard to where I'm at. You can see the trees, more than one shadow of the tree against the wall. This is engineer light. The entity is stalking. The entity is engaging the P.O.C. while they're crossing path, and the P.O.C. with engineer light moving across the house. The shadows are moving in this direction. The vehicle is coming in this direction. That's engineer light. They're stalking with the Ontario Police Department. Demons acting together as an entity. That's P.O.C. That's the people of the state that are gang. And I'm documenting all their license plates. The unlawful threat is to engage in what is stalking you directly with the police as you enforce your rights and document, just like the Ontario police are while they're monitoring my vagina at 6:02 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library as I'm documenting that fake son upon my arrival in the morning. And the entity's fake son is still there in the evening when I exit. And the Ontario police immediately begin flying over me, flying over that my location while the fake son is there, the supernatural environment, as I'm documenting. This is surveillance. And the people of the state are subject to federal prison. I'm going to continue documenting the people of the state who are in their homes engaging in criminal surveillance, which is unlawful acts of domestic terrorism in the state of California. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:14 p.m. All right, the video that you just listened to is the evidence of the people of the state gang stalking where they live. The Ontario police engaging what is the demonic pacing on video. And doing so in relevant position to me where I'm at 8th Street. At the TABOR professional building, I'm not going to see where the Ontario police are flying in circles because they're focused on me while they're stalking in relevant position pursuant to what I'm doing, and that includes documentation. It is currently 10:15 p.m. Alrighty, it is currently, again, can barely see. The entity is stalking by plane and helicopter. License plate 9E1H005 with the Ontario Police Department, who's maintaining hovering planes. There's no takeoff. Like it's as obvious at the Ontario Town Square. There's no planes take off, and there's also no planes taking off going to a destination when they fly in one direction and then make a donut U-turn in the middle to go right back toward the airport, I suppose. That's what the type of flights that Southwest Airlines and Delta Airlines are engaging in. Those aren't flights either. It's stalking in the path. Ontario Police gang stalking, license 40002T1, license 9DZV355, molesting while the entity is stalking with plane activity. Doing so, all right, while documenting the people, this is the entity that's just desperate because I'm documenting them, so they engage in this obvious harassment. License 7HXA572. Okay, molesting as I'm documenting the license plate. Let me let you know who's engaging in that with them. 9DZV355 and 40002T1. All right, engaging in gang stalking with the Ontario police who's flying over their homes while I'm documenting, and a demon is right here in front. That license plate that I read pacing while I'm documenting, and they know that they're being documented. License 36298J2. License 7SLX861, 9TRL083. This is the direct evidence that the people of the state of California are gang stalking where they live, and that's exactly where they're going to be prosecuted, where they live. 647 H Street in Ontario, California. Ontario police gang stalking by helicopter under the fake moon, being molested by the people of the state who are stalking, tracking my steps with the city of Ontario, which is a sex offense that you're also going to be prosecuted for while you're engaged in federal stalking. License again, 7HXA572, P.O.C. Alrighty, again, who you see, 7HXA572, she's maintaining presence and light activity. That is a female. And she's doing so while the Ontario police are pacing over the people of the state whose license plates I'm documenting. 647 8th Street in Ontario, California at 10:19 p.m. Ontario PD, unlawful threat by the people of the state that are gang stalking. This is the basis of federal prison. License plate. It's currently 10:19 p.m. And this is the entity following the helicopter activity, not at the TABOR professional building, but where I'm at on the street where I'm documenting the people of the state. License 8SBL767, license 95607U1, where the entity is gang stalking with the Ontario police, threatening me and doing so while they are engaged in criminal surveillance. 641 H Street in Ontario, California Again, that's license plate 95607U1 8SBL767. License 7HPD729. License plates 44274. That's a handicap plate. At 10:20 p.m. where the people of the state are maintaining a light activity. That's a female and inside of that vehicle whose license plate I documented. She's stalking in the path while the Ontario police are engaged in ongoing pacing. She's stalking with light on behalf of all these defendants that I'm identifying by home address and by license plate. You got a demon that's maintaining light activity with the Ontario Police Department, gang stalking as one entity together. And this is the entity that's engaged in surveillance that knows that it's being documented as well, while being subject to what is very damning evidence of the entity engaged in that hallmark of stalking by helicopter. And no domestic terrorist is going to threaten an American citizen like the city of Ontario does, as you document them. Also, as I document them monitoring my vagina, the entity is engaged in the same pattern of stalking with helicopter. It is currently 10:21 p.m. You don't have any constitutional right to engage in criminal monitoring in any way, and then to engage in what is obstruction of justice by stalking and terrorizing with the police department. You'll go to federal prison for that, including while you do so where you live. It's currently 10:21 p.m. Everybody on 8th Street, 8th Street in between San Antonio and Vine Avenue are engaging in that, and that's just where I'm located. This is a criminal act within the pattern of conduct that the population engages in, and while I go to a quote-unquote random street, that same pattern of conduct is underway. Okay, it's currently 10:21 p.m. Alrighty, it is 10:22 p.m. again. This is license plate 7ZYZ702. License plate 7EBT546. And this is everybody on H Street, H as in Henry. License SNODRFT, or is that DRET? DRFT, Snowdrift, SNODRFT. And this is also relevant to everybody on H Street engaging in the pattern of conduct where they reside. This is evidence against the state of California, where everybody is engaging in surveillance, and there's no exception. At public establishments, business establishments, and at facilitating venues where you will also be prosecuted where you live, and the government has no warrant or probable cause to keep you under surveillance, where the people of the state are sharing in that P.O.C, indicated by the helicopter activity as you're documenting in the specific environment. They're in their homes engaging in criminal monitoring where the government has no constitutional authority to do so, and neither do the people of the state. 8BNK203. This is 10:23 p.m. License plate 5YBU770. License plate 9TUD858. You're mindful of the pattern while I'm at the Starbucks, and the entity keeps the fake sun at that Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. As I go out into the parking lot and I document and I remind you about damning incidents that I've already captured, such as the fake sun being over that same building in the same manner at 6 in the evening, and I'm documenting the people of the state, showing that fake sun as a demon is stalking via the drive-thru of that Starbucks, who begins sounding helicopter activity, the same stalker, the Ontario Police Department, under that fake sun. Engineer light is present right now while they are stalking with the people of the state who know who I am and are targeting me with light as well while they're monitoring. And you're going to be prosecuted for monitoring where you live. It's a means of easily identifying you, not an exception at all. It makes it even easier. I know exactly who you are, where you're at, in the same way that they know who I am while they're targeting in the fully documented methods that the demon possessed do in that demonic environment. And it's around where you are, where you live, you're going to be prosecuted. License BA2625A. That is Baja, California. That's a Baja license plate. 22701F4. As I am documenting the African American driving the City of Ontario vehicle today, and I document her, I get images of her thick face and all her chins. The entity starts sounding what as I document her up close? Helicopter activity. 9GVG100, 7AFD956. And they're doing so while they're stalking with light During the day, it's under a fake sun. At night, it's with the demon-possessed who are lurking as a population, stalking with light. And it's more highlighted as you see a bunch of stalkers surrounding. And those stalkers are obsessed with touching you, surrounding you with light, which is what they're all doing under a fake sun as well. All right, and this is what the Ontario Police is being disbanded for. And the ongoing documentation of them stalking by helicopter is literally the evidence that highlights what the people of the state are doing. And this is the same when I'm documenting them in their homes. They are monitoring and they know that they're being documented, and then they engage in the heavily documented pattern, the overly used tactic of stalking in concert with the police department. People go to prison for that. As I am crossing paths with your home and as I'm documenting license plates, your license plate, that's you unlawfully threatening me. No terrorist is going to threaten with a gang stalking police department that's acting in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, having a pattern of engaging in kidnapping, always by breaking the law. Kidnapping is already a violation already. They're doing so while they're stalking. They're stalking me, offense, and then they're engaging in kidnapping, an offense upon that offense, with you while I'm documenting you. License 9LKH995. License 38733R2. Everybody on H Street is going to be documented, so you'll see that on the podcast. 8ZST169. Threatening is not going to stop documentation, which the entity is also going to experience while they are going to be publicly prosecuted on the internet. And I will also prosecute them in court, because this is how any federal government is going to treat a gang stalking population, a gang stalking city who have no protection, no shelter where they live. And they should prepare to have their homes raided when they're engaging in the pattern of conduct in the neighborhood like I'm documenting now. This is what the entity is doing when they're gang stalking Starbucks. You're not protected at Starbucks. You go home and guess what? That federal prosecution is going to follow you. License EE36Z11. EE36Z11, that's paper. 4YDG555. They feel very comfortable gang stalking at establishments like Starbucks and the library, for example, where, again, the demon-possessed that are short-sighted and forgetful, that's why you provide 85 videos of stalking as a police department on an ongoing, ceaseless basis, because you're obsessed and you're not paying attention. 7Z09857, when you engage in that provision of evidence against you and against everybody else that's targeting with you, in a manner that's proven by evidence, you're not understanding how that's going to follow you. It doesn't just end when you leave that venue as though there's no consequences. This is what they're doing at Starbucks. It's surveillance all day long under a 12-hour fake sun, the whole population just sharing, and all of them just buying coffee. 8XYL084, and that's relevant to the prosecution of Starbucks. It's a straightforward prosecution. There's no mystery here. And what they don't understand is that they will be prosecuted where they live. And I will be sharing everybody's information, which is public anyway. But I want to make sure that I specifically document the demons who are threatening me while they're gang stalking where they live. You need to know where the terrorists live. You need to know their license plates. You need to know what neighborhood they're from. You need to know what police department they're targeting me with. You need to witness how psychopathic they are. You need to know who they are. License plate 35799. That's a handicap license plate. And it's currently 10:29 p.m. License 1NE5614. That's a large, like a camper on the back of this vehicle, which is license plate 10151D3 at 535 H Street. At 535 H Street, I'm at the intersection of H Street and Bonita. And the demons who are in their homes gang stalking, aware of who I am and what I'm doing, they're even in their homes using, this demon's using their vehicle while they're sounding the alarm. As I began switching my phone operation, going from recording to the camera with simultaneity, which is what the demons do. They know what you're doing on your devices. You are literally under surveillance. I've proven that to you through the demonic environment where you're under surveillance, and that you know, while, for example, you're in Florida and you're looking at the fake sun that's remaining over me all day long, you can look up in the sky and recognize a specific environment over you, because there's only one sun in the natural environment. We are surrounded by a specific environment where demons are engaging in what is supposedly no longer surreptitious surveillance, and it's speaking to public corruption, where psychopaths are stalking and monitoring where they live, because they don't understand that you are going to be documented and prosecuted as a stalker, because that's exactly what you are. When you're engaged in criminal monitoring, you're stalking. And that specific environment follows, that population follows everywhere that you're going. You're stalking where you live. Be prepared to be prosecuted where you live. Be prepared, because that's exactly what's happening. It's currently 10:30 p.m. The entity stalking me by helicopter, as I just documented on video and podcast, is going against the state of California. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. All right, this is an unlawful threat. It's terrorism by a population that has let me be clear, they've already lost the ability to exhibit any sort of legitimacy in court other than a stalker that's been targeting for years, as my documentation proves, while they were simultaneously trying to maintain a secret conservatorship, illegal, about property that nobody ever told me about, illegal, invalid, probable cause of suspicion in the first place, illegitimacy. They have no legitimacy whatsoever, and they're still gang stalking. This is relevant to mental illness of the entity that's engaging in what is gang stalking to try to make another person look crazy. It's not working, and I'm going to prosecute the demon-possessed who are psychopaths and violent sex offenders, even stalking another person where they live. Psychopathic, malicious conduct. License 00729K1, 7JYN965. This is Bonita. This is Bonita Street. 8KHE644. And what you'll pay attention to as I go about and document, the helicopter follows me, as the population has been doing, following me. 7PLK747. License 6S34103. License plate 7VCG947. All right, the entity flying right over me at the people of the states facilitating venue. Let me read their address right here. I'm at Bonita now. Bonita and Bonita and what is this? Bonita and El Morado. This is where the entity is flying over me by helicopter, following, stalking, as a police department that's gang stalking with the people of the state, whose license plate includes 8TDP929, and they are located at, let's see, 538, hold on. 538 El Monte, or El Morado, sorry. Let me get this. 538 at the intersection of Bonita and El Morado. 538 El Morado Court. Gang stalker with the Ontario police who fly over me as they're flying over this house as I am in this specific environment, and the Ontario police is following me around as I'm documenting its co-defendants, the people of the state, including 538 El Morado Court in Ontario, California. 91762. This is literally evidence of following from place to place, and the Ontario police that are already documented gang stalking are providing more evidence against the people that I don't even need. The entity is going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism, stalking through an entire population that is the city of Ontario and the residents of the city of Ontario. License 21423T1. The entity is necessarily engaging in surveillance to engage in the pattern of stalking when I'm walking on what's supposedly around in a private residential area on the sidewalk on my phone. And the attention of the helicopter activity is speaking to specific knowledge surveillance that the people of the state are also engaging in. 8N74854. They're going to be prosecuted. This is an inevitable prosecution, which I already stated is the case. But this level of ridiculous provision of evidence against the government is an inevitable demise of the population. 4595184. But you already know that when you see video of them driving by a Starbucks cafe and the tornadoes of light inside of that cafe, a supernatural pattern of conduct, which is documented in more than one city even. This is the entity that's going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism, gang stalking. 8NZL980, 9FNL289. The entity was concentrating helicopter activity at the TABOR Professional Building. And as I walk about off of Bonita and 8th Street, the helicopter activity is following. All right, just like that population is. And the helicopter activity is as I am documenting them regularly wherever I go. All right, this is, let me get this real quick. All right, flying directly over the top of my head. This is El Morado, and this is the entity that is stalking while they're in their homes, This is all relevant positioning. They're in their homes monitoring. And this is why the entity is flying over my head at what is 560 El Morado. What is that? Yeah, 560 El Morado. Gang stalking with the Ontario Police, as I'm documenting as well as I'm reading their license plates. This is the second video. I was on H Street when the entity was flying in circles at San Antonio and H Street, and I'm documenting that P.O.C. as I walk in the opposite direction down H Street. The entity is pacing, remaining over me. This is Mike LORENZ engaging in surveillance. The Ontario Police Department is engaged in criminal surveillance with the people of the state who are in their homes as I'm walking by. This is relevant to what is surveillance while they are monitoring. This is my shadow appearing at a great distance. I'm not on their property. I'm on the sidewalk, and this is my shadow. That's not the light activity that's created by porch lights across the street. The entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct while, again, this is my shadow that's on the ground right here. It's kind of faint. Just so you can see the pattern of conduct of what is light activity where surveillance is underway. All right, my shadow is behind me and my shadow is behind me. Excuse me, my shadow is behind me and my shadow is in front of me at a distance away from me, where the entity is flying over my head by helicopter as I am engaged in documenting all of these gang stalkers, demons by residents, because they're all monitoring me while the Ontario Police are being documented. And that's what you're learning. The gang stalking conduct of the government is directly incriminating the co-defendants who are the people of the state. And where am I right now? Not at Starbucks, but I'm at 560 El Morado, who's engaged in the pattern of conduct with the Ontario Police Department, and the same exact elements of monitoring remain. The ongoing evidence, I've got two adjacent shadows that you can see right here. They're gang stalking inside of their home. They're engaged in criminal monitoring. They're stalking where they live. In the same way, when the people of the state go into Starbucks, when they go to the OVITT Family Community Library, they are gang stalking with the city of Ontario, wherever it is that I'm at, and the same police department is engaging in surveillance. This is P.O.C. It's currently 10:37 p.m. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. This is what this is relevant to. Nathan Morgan is a gang stalker who committed kidnapping on May 29, 2025. With this police department that is following me around as I'm documenting the people of the state. Nathan Morgan and also B. Hook, C. Torres, and L. Martinez, they're all going to federal prison. They committed kidnapping, which I documented dutifully on video so that the world can see how the entity engages in targeting by seeking to, but failing at criminal defamation, which was audible activity while they were monitoring, and then they committed kidnapping. And they committed kidnapping while the people of the state that are documenting that are gang stalking where they live, like at 560 El Morado, where the police fly over your head, they engage in what is kidnapping with that police department. This is incriminating everybody in this neighborhood. I just documented, you will see on my podcast, this address, everybody on H Street, because the people of the state that are engaging in domestic terrorism by the malicious pattern of conduct targeting American citizens when they're in their homes, which is no shelter. The entity is, again, I want to be clear, you are subject to a federal raid in the same way that they would raid any other establishment that's engaging in terrorism. They're not protected in their homes. The entity is proving that they are targeting where they live, which I've already shown. The foolishness of the Ontario Police to engage in stalking me while I'm walking in the neighborhood, and the people of the state are as well. They're molesting as well. They're following as well. And they're doing so while they're in their homes where you don't have any protection at all from a federal prosecution whatsoever. In the same way that I'm being pursued with an impossible environment where surveillance is underway, be prepared to be raided, be prepared to be arrested, be prepared to be prosecuted, where it is that you pay rent, where it is that you pay your mortgage. It's a facilitating venue. This is P.O.C. All right, the video that you just listened to is narrating the specific environment. My shadow that is in front of me at a tremendous different distance away from me, it's upright like another person. And that's impossible light activity. And the entity is flying right over the top of my head, which is the direct evidence of targeting, criminal surveillance by the people of the state of Oregon who are in relevant position while they are residing at a facilitating venue. That's the significance of that helicopter activity: terrorism, domestic terrorism, and psychological torture, molestation with impossible light, pursuant to criminal surveillance in violation of federal stalking statute Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2, while the Ontario Police Department, the documented serial kidnappers and violent sex offenders, relying on this population whom they are incriminating while they're flying over my head and following me around as I document the people of the state, which the people of the state are necessarily aware of because they're gang stalking, and the Ontario Police Department, who is also gang stalking. This is why the entity is following me, specifically me, around in a helicopter as I'm documenting them. This is not a series of coincidences. And it's also relevant to what is the supernatural pattern of conduct, because your shadow does not stand upright in front of you. Okay, neither does it create multiple shadows. This is where the entity is gang stalking where they live, and I am at Bonita and El Morado where the people of the state are gang stalking. That's the video that's occurring at 560 El Morado Court. This is P.O.C, the entity using its vehicle stalking in the path where the entity is flying over. That is, what address is this? Again, knowledge about where you're at, just beeping their vehicle. 604 El Morado, stalking, gang stalking, monitoring. Demons that also know the state of my vagina when they're gang stalking at establishments like the Starbucks, like the OVITT Family Community Library, where I'm remaining at Woodside Senior Apartments, and the demon possessed are pacing all around while the fake sun remains over Tracy Banks' apartment, and I'm subject to the same sex offense while the Ontario police fly over her apartment, fly in circles over me while I'm inside of her apartment, keep the fake sun over her apartment, engineer light inside and on the outside all over that apartment building while the people of the state are gang stalking. License 6ZXP000, stalking with activity creation, aiding the Ontario police that you just listened to them stalking, knowing exactly where I'm at, and so do all the gang stalkers that are gangs that are targeting via a residence as I'm documenting them by license plate. And these terrorists are aware that they're being documented because they're engaged in surveillance. License 7MYW921, 8LYH141. And this is the malice behind the iteration of the pattern of conduct referred to as criminal summoning. They're engaging in surveillance with the police, and then they summon the police. They're engaged in surveillance with the fire department, and then they summon the fire department. They're engaged in surveillance with the ambulances, and they summon them pursuant to whatever. It's the same elements of monitoring, and they're psychopaths that spend a lot of time and resources in targeting me. It's not impossible for you to understand and believe that an entire fire department, police department, airport is stalking, criminally wasting resources, and maliciously using resources to gang stalk one person, as you've seen the city of Ontario engage in that P.O.C with the people of the state. 9TOH326, because that's exactly what they do. All right, putting some smoke up in the air. It's still going to be criminal summoning. The superseding facts remains the specific environment. The entity is always relying on you to look at their badges and their uniforms, and that's supposed to override the evidence of an American citizen stating something like the ordinary targeted individual would: strangers are stalking me. That's how the unintelligent, I take that back, not unintelligent, the ineloquent, okay? The ordinary target individual that does not understand, and it's understandable that you don't understand. It's not a matter of intelligence. Okay, that was a legitimate mistake. It's not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of the entity that's engaging what is bullying an American citizen, and they do not know what they are being presented with. They don't understand what's happening and what people are doing, and it will come out as strangers are stalking, and that's what it looks like on the surface, but they're not strangers. That's why when I'm outside of these people's house that I've never physically met, the same pattern of conduct is underway. They know exactly who you are, and you are being targeted, and it is a pervasive targeting system. It's demonic. License 9MXH564. So it's supposed to appear like that. And the reason why is because the entity wants to then falsely depict your character as being paranoid. That's very malicious. And it is a criminal abuse of the practice of medicine. This is what the medical professionals in California are engaging in. 8SOA321. Very, very malicious. License P180SO. Everybody, it's the same thing like I just documented on 8th Street. Everybody on this street is stalking. Everybody. The demon possessed are delusional that you're not going to be found out by the feds because you're inside of your home. No, honey, that means the feds know exactly who you are and where you live. License 6NWW182. Because they are gang stalking where they live. License plate. In other words, that's very foolish. 19964F3, 7AVP168, 7KO6934. And the entity, I'm also going to break this down for you. The entity literally engages in, because it has nothing. What else are you going to do? So you engage in more documented criminal conduct. So you engaged in stalking by helicopter, flying over my head at 560 El Morado because you don't want me to document the people of the state. As I document the people of the state and that ongoing pattern of stalking by helicopter occurs, that's evidence that I'm documenting in order to prosecute them. While you're doing it for the purpose of disincentivizing it, you're trying to stop me from it, which is a charge. That's obstruction. But it's going on the record, conclusive evidence that you're stalking, and so are the demons whose home I'm in front of while you're doing that. This is what the entity just engaged in. This is what they're always engaging in. This is the asininity, the lack of intelligence. The entity is just engaging in bullying. That's it. They murder people, they kidnap people, they set people up, they make people disappear. Okay, they overwhelm people with issues, and you're abandoned by your those who you know, because I don't want to call them, they're not your real friends and family because they wouldn't be demons targeting you, but those who you are familiar with. This is how an entity does it, but this is entirely illegitimate. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. I don't need the acceptance of this demon. I don't care. You've seen, she's a maniacal psychopath. She's a delusional one, very mentally sick, and she is in actual need of mental assistance, which she and every other gang stalker is going to get. They share the same pattern of conduct, very malicious. But the entity is engaging in this conduct, and it's directly incriminating the very thing that you don't want me to document. That's the entity that doesn't have any strategy. That's the entity that already lost with regard to artificially engineering mental illness in order to steal through a criminally procured conservatorship. That's the entity whose criminal kidnappers, Nathan Morgan, C. Torres, L. Martinez, and B. Hook, they're going to prison because they're gang stalking just like the Ontario police is now. They're doing so while they are in every way serving to harm their own interests with regard to not looking like a stalker in federal court, not looking like you're engaged in targeting in federal court, not looking like you're maniacal, malicious, corrupt actors targeting an American citizen whose property you thought you were going to steal and get away with, or steal the rest of it and nobody was ever going to know about it, in order to not look like that. The entity has already forfeited that. All right, license 6JKS545. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. License 5GDG063. 8HGA049, and this is why you should be careful who you engage in business with, who you engage in criminal conduct with. I'm not incentivized, I don't advocate engaging in criminal activity in the first place, but when you're engaging in criminal conduct, you should be careful about who you engage in criminal conduct with, because if they're not the brightest, they're going to get you in trouble too. 23456J1. They're not the brightest, you're going down right along with them. License plate. DE86H85 paper. License 47290R2. License DE42TO4 paper. 62459Y1. You can hear the helicopter activity. This is the people of the state gang stalking. My shadows, multiple shadows moving across their houses while they're monitoring with the Ontario Police, license 73633V1. And in the video, you can see the light activity where the Ontario Police is stalking with the people of the state that are residing on El Morado. As I'm reading their license plates, and they are gang stalking with the police that are maintaining surveillance with them as I'm documenting walking down this street. And this is a means of causing the stalker to expose itself. That's what I just engaged in. It's currently 10:49 p.m. Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison as well. He's going to federal prison, engaging in terrorism against an American citizen, engaging in things such as fraudulent marriages so you can steal property from somebody. So the police that are psychopaths stalking an American citizen, you're going to prison for that. It's ridiculous. 7XYV825. And you will be subject to mental examinations. 9SKV792. Pacing. They're pacing in engineer light while the Ontario Police are remaining above by helicopter. And this is the criminal conduct of a population. And this is, again, the midnight stalking, the all-night stalking from place to place. Sex offenders that are monitoring my vagina. Ongoing ceaseless surveillance. All for what is money that they're not getting it. They're proven stalkers. So, and not only that, with regard to the United States, this is proving the reality, and which is going to change the narrative with regard to gang stalking being some fallacy. No, it's not. And the prosecution of the state, the prosecution of the Ontario Police, the prosecution of Tracy Banks, the prosecution of the state of California, in other words, that's engaging in a targeting system, which is informing what's happening in the rest of the world, because the entity's criminal pattern of conduct includes keeping a fake sun over me all day long as I document. And that's informing you about what's over you in the sky space in whatever state that you're in. License 9SSS532. I want you to hear the helicopter activity, because that license plate is a third party that's gang stalked with the Ontario Police at 10:51 p.m. in Engineer Light. That's again license 9SSS532 at 655 El Morado, 10:51 p.m. All right, what you are getting is the entity that is pacing over me while the people of the state are stalking in the path on San Antonio. That's not traffic, they're stalking. The Ontario Police, the Engineer Light is context for you. So the people of the state that are on San Antonio, they are stalking as a population, making sure they're keeping me surrounded while I'm on the street, El Morado, in between Bonita and San Antonio, and the people of the state are gang stalking. They're also stalking while I'm walking by their houses. They're crossing path while I'm on the sidewalk walking outside. License 43332H1. Ontario Police is pacing over me repeatedly on the street, and the Ontario Police is gang stalking with the people of the state as I'm documenting them. This is 643 El Morado at 10:52 p.m. El Morado Court at 10:53 p.m. This is P.O.C. And this is again license plate 882TWR. That's New Mexico. Okay, flying over my head again. This is the entity pacing. And the entity is engaging in what is obvious targeting based on, again, the provision of evidence against itself. The Ontario Police has no intentions, in other words, of remaining as a police department, and it's not helping the people of the state because they're being prosecuted. 6PTE625, so the entity is just engaging in what is failing at stopping me from documenting. That's literally what's going on here. These are the psychopaths that are, again, violent sex offenders that the people of the state enter into bathrooms stalking me on behalf of this police department. 6PTE625 is gang stalking, engaging in terrorism, while the entity is targeting with helicopter activity, which is an unlawful threat to your life, safety, and liberty. While you are reporting the government that is targeting you in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping, while you're reporting it, while you're documenting it like I am now, the people of the state, including license 6PTE625, gang stalking at, what is this address? At 637 El Morado Court. That's exactly what you would report to the federal government. They are gang stalking. They don't have to come out of their homes. The specific environment controls. The entity is not hiding anywhere. The entire entity, and that's just where I'm at right now, the entire street, you would report the city. You would report whatever it is that you're around. You're documenting the specific environment. You're documenting the government targeting you in the ways in which I've shown. It's the presence, the following conduct in that specific environment while you're also documenting, which is no coincidence either. The entity is repeatedly flying over my head as you're listening to it on podcast, and also while I'm capturing it on video. The entity's light activity is also captured in that video. It is currently 10:55 p.m. This is what Corey Watson is doing, because then you're mindful of what you already know. Corey Watson is gang stalking inside of the Starbucks. No gang stalking police department is going to engage in that. This is what they're doing while they're smiling and waving at you, and engaging in what is very compartmental, very delusional conduct. That Ontario Police Department is gang stalking now, and they're gang stalking under the fake sun at the Starbucks while I am capturing them in relevant position in the specific environment, engaging in harassment and terrorism with the people of the state, including the very heavily documented employees of that Starbucks, which is a third party. And they're doing so while they're stalking in the path right in front of your face. It is as threatening and unlawful as stalking and pursuing in helicopters as you're documenting it. All right, the entity is engaging in that, and this is what's going on here. As I document Starbucks, the Ontario Police engage in what is gang stalking by purchasing a beverage and sitting in relevant position, gang stalking with the people of the state. And the third parties, Patty, Elena, and Amelia, and Seth and whatnot, they're subject to federal prison. That's what they're doing right now. I'm documenting the people of the state, and the entity engages in what is targeting you through the police. You're going to federal prison. This is, again, targeting somebody that's reporting to the feds. while they're trying to kill you and stalking you, trying to defame you and kidnapping you, and then they're going to threaten you through the police whom you're targeting that person with. You are delusional if you think keeping your lights off and not coming outside is protecting you from being prosecuted for gang stalking. The evidence of the environment and the pattern of conduct is already established. You will be prosecuted where you live. I don't have to see your face. The entity is individualizing stalking as though you have to, and you're not. It's entirely malicious in its government conduct. And the Ontario Police is not going to be prosecuted and disbanded alone in isolation. The people of the state are being prosecuted. Everybody on the street is engaged in criminal monitoring right now and unlawful threatening with the intent to obstruct justice. While they are aware, this is why the Ontario Police are repeatedly flying over my head. The entity cannot gang stalk you without the people of the state. Otherwise, the Ontario Police Department would fill Starbucks and they would fill the library. They would fill the parking lot. The people of the state are stalking on the path. They're supposed to be the mass, but you've seen this whole system disintegrate. They've literally, they're engaged in bare bones stalking now, and the entity has no mask. The entity is engaging in what is blatant admission of targeting, like the Ontario Police is repeatedly flying over my head on the street. Okay, this is, again, 10:57 p.m. The people of the state are being documented engaging in terrorism with the Ontario Police that's flying over my head repeatedly as I am documenting them targeting me, which is unlawful. It's terrorism while you're living in relevant position. You're not protected while you're living on any street in the state, engaging in surveillance like the city of Ontario is. Okay? The entity is engaging in surveillance, engaging in criminal summoning, engaging in amplified train activity, engaging in what is amplified plane activity while the city of Ontario is gang stalking while I'm walking through the neighborhood, and also in helicopter as the Ontario Police is showing who the city of Ontario, including all these gang stalking residents, are targeting. And it is myself while the Ontario Police repeatedly fly over my head, which I'm also documenting while it's happening because the people of the state are going to be prosecuted. License 7WHE575. And it's 10:58 p.m. That's the entity that relies on that tactic to stop you from documenting, and that is supposed to, like, even if I were to document one house, do you understand that you don't have to document thousands of people? You don't. You're establishing the P.O.C. The feds understand what's going on now, and you have the ability to understand what everybody's doing as well. When you have the established P.O.C., which is relevant to the environment that you're mindful of, you're cognizant of, surveillance is underway, and the entities engaging, there's no exception to it. There's no household, for example, that's not engaging in the P.O.C. You don't have to come outside. You don't have to water your garden. You don't have to come out and sit in your car on the street. The entity is flying back and forth by helicopter while they're in their homes engaging in monitoring federal stalking on communication devices, crossing a path while I'm on the sidewalk walking outside of your house, while the people of the state are pacing in traffic. They don't have to come outside. License MUSIQDR in the same way that they don't have to converse with you when they're gang stalking you inside a Starbucks and at the library. And while you're in the bathroom, engaged in private activity while they're pacing all around outside of the bathroom and above the building outside, keeping a fake sun over the indicating sexual violence that's inherent to the pattern of conduct. You don't have to come out and say anything. The Ontario Police just spoke volumes on behalf of the people of the state, and it's incriminating with regard to a prosecution. 8 SLW 672. And that's what the entity provides with regard to prosecuting them. This is, again, very highly unintelligent. The entity never anticipated exposure, and so they engage in damning conduct over and over and over again. 7JVJ184, very damning conduct. It is currently 11 p.m. This is the same entity. All I did was walk down the street. Let me be clear. The city of Ontario, just like I just documented, as I walk down any street, what happens? The police follow. The police engage in stalking by helicopter flying over my head, and that's specific to targeting me as opposed to these demons that I'm documenting while I'm surrounded with engineered light, which is not normal light activity, and a documentation of this ongoing harassment by the police using helicopters in a supernatural environment, an engineered environment that is conducive to monitoring, where you will be legally proven to be convicted as stalking where you live. You're stalking, there's no exception to that. It's criminal surveillance. The government has no warrant of probable cause. So the government is stalking vicariously through the people who think because they pay rent there, oh, they can't be prosecuted. This is not traditional stalking. It's gang stalking. And it's not based on chronology. That environment follows me. That police department follows me. I'm going to prosecute you because they're doing it through the people of the state. License 9EKM299 6TTH441. And that's what's relevant. When I walk down the street and document the people of the state, who follows the police department? They're all gang stalking. All of them. License 9TGA 431. And this is the people of the state on El Morado. They're all gang stalking while they are targeting. I just went down the street to document some, and the entity confirms that the entity is gang stalking while I'm at the TABOR professional building. They are remaining engaged in that criminal system, and the entity is engaging in that P.O.C. with real-time knowledge while they keep the evidence against them under surveillance. 64393H2. And remember, the entity is concentrating helicopter activity over Tracy Banks' apartment as I'm remaining at Woodside Senior Apartments, okay? Because this is what the entity was doing at Woodside, flying repeatedly over her apartment with the Ontario International Airport. So doing it over again, where the entity is flying by plane and helicopter in Ontario, that's where the entity is engaged in surveillance. That's literally the formula. And this is why it was happening at a senior citizen complex where the entity kept the fake sun and flying over the senior citizen complex specifically targeted to where I'm at, 8CQP 684. The Ontario Police exhibiting demon possession, they're pacing over me repeatedly as I am documenting the people of the state that are gang stalking. The Ontario Police are also timing as I approach an intersection, an open space. This is why they're sounding helicopter right now, because I'm at the intersection of Bonita and El Morado. This is analogous to the demon-possessed stalking with light, as opposed to the people that say they don't want to be documented right now. This is why the entity sounded louder helicopter activity at the intersection of Bonita and El Morado. And this is the willingness of the corrupt police department to be put on the map for domestic terrorism stalking as a police department, because Mike LORENZ has no interest in remaining in law enforcement. This is speaking to, again, psychopathic behavior. They are being disbanded. They are being prosecuted. The gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison, and that's the significance of the timing that the helicopter sounds as well. They are monitoring obsessively, including while I document it, incriminating everybody else, not just that police department that's going to be removed. The people of the state are going to be prosecuted. 8ZON219 81408W3. So I just want to give you context. Yes, they are stalking, but that timing, it's as I arrive at Bonita and El Morado. License 9NYD883. And I believe I documented these. No, I didn't. Let me get these. This is a motorcycle, 23S4908. License 7PLK747. 8JIE971. 8KHE644, 7JYN965, 00729K1, 56494T3. No, I might have read that one. Okay, it's 11:04 p.m. And this is Bonita, and the cross street this should be back at H Street. H is in Henry and Bonita, where the entity is flying over me at H Street in San Antonio, flying in circles, and then I go back down the opposite direction down the same street, H Street, and then I turn down Bonita. And as I document on Bonita and then go on to El Morado, flying over my head by helicopter, pacing, flying back over again by helicopter, and then as I approach, going back down the opposite street, El Morado, getting both sides, in other words, both sides of the street, sounding amplified helicopter activity, pacing over me as I am, that's timing, they're meeting with helicopter activity as I approach the intersection of Bonita and El Morado. The people of the state are gang stalking with them. It is currently 11:05 p.m. This is what the people of the state are doing when I'm coming out of the library, and they are obsessively stalking with light, meeting at the intersections in order to touch all over me with light while they're monitoring. And this is the criminal conduct that the Ontario Police Department is engaging in through the people of the state. So I'm going to their homes and I'm documenting them, and the Ontario Police Department that's gang stalking the entire time is maintaining the chief means of activity creation, while the elements of monitoring, light, and relevant positioning is accomplished by the people of the state. The entity sounding helicopter activity, and also my voice narrating the P.O.C. is also serving monitoring. But the entity is using helicopter as I document the people of the state. There's no hiding. You already know that they're gang stalking. This is an entity that is delusional. They literally compartmentalize reality. Okay, they just engage in what is providing evidence against themselves. I'm prosecuting the state of California that's engaged in criminal surveillance, terrorism in the United States, homegrown terrorism. But not only that, the entity is engaging in what is terrorism through the civilian population. And the civilian population is surrounded with insurmountable evidence of targeting with the U.S. government. License 8JJK875, 8UZV289, 24703S3. And this is P.O.C. And the evidence of that is following me down as it's 11 at night. And the entity is pursuing me as I'm walking down the street with helicopter activity. And the people of the state, again, what's the rationale? I'm gonna tell you exactly what they did. Not driving by, well, actually they are driving by. I'm still documenting that. But the entity is doing a lot less of stalking by vehicles with light activity. And that's not because they're not monitoring. It's because of the immediacy of identity. All right, because I'm documenting addresses, I'm documenting where they're at right now in real time. Nobody wants to come out and document that, but they're more comfortable on Euclid Avenue where there's more people and less addresses of the people of the state. The entity is, again, compartmentalizing the entire, this is documentation that's serving to prosecute the state of California, not just Vine Avenue. Which Vine Avenue is surrounded with evidence. The ability to surround anybody with the evidence of gang stalking, which is unprecedented. That pattern of conduct is continuing throughout the state. Why? Because of the exclusivity of what these demons are engaging in. The sun does not sit over one street all day. The entire entity, because to the depriving everybody else in the country of the sun, is speaking to what the entire state is doing. What does that sun do when I get in a car and I drive somewhere else? It remains over my vehicle, which I documented from California to Nevada and back. In every single county that I've been in. Orange County, Los Angeles County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Los Angeles, I already said Los Angeles County, but San Diego County, the entity, and Kern County. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct with regard to a body of evidence, while the Ontario Police Department are heavily, heavily documented, including tonight when I go down H Street and El Morado and Bonita, and helicopter activity surrounds me as I'm documenting the domestic terrorists by residence, by address. And the only tactics that the gang stalkers have is to stalk you with the terrorists, the kidnappers themselves, the Ontario Police Department, which are criminal acts of obstruction of justice. And it has never stopped me from documenting them. In fact, I'm going to put everybody's address in the podcast description so that you know where domestic terrorists reside in Ontario, California. All right, while they're engaged in obstruction of justice on behalf of an entity, not just that demon at 530 El Morado Court, but the people of the state of California, engaging in what is a pattern of obstruction of justice while they're engaging in criminal surveillance, and obstruction of justice while they're engaging in what is surveillance of the evidence to be submitted against them in federal court. That's the pattern of conduct by demons that are admitting to engaging in the very allegations of gang stalking. License 9FYK536, 6XUS165. And this is the significance of what the kidnappers on May 29th engaged in. They were gang stalking. And they're, again, not, the Ontario police are not sophisticated at all. They're not sophisticated at all, as I've shown. And the entity that's gang stalking, this is not a sophisticated system at all either. The entity is engaged in what is plain targeting. And the ways in which you've seen that they're targeting, it's very demonic. It's speaking to demented. It's not speaking to genius at all. It's speaking to obvious. It's so demented that it's obvious. And you can recognize that obvious pattern of conduct. And this is where surveillance is underway. And it's also obvious while they engage in surveillance using helicopter activity. The hallmark. Stalking with impossible light activity, license plate. 6X43148. Impulsive light activity while a demon is stalking in the path. They don't have to talk to you. 6PKL670. And this is the same gang stalking by the Ontario Police Department who's acting through a population. A population that's surrounding you, cutting your path off, walking in front of you, riding a skateboard in front of you, riding a bike in front of you, driving a car in front of you, being in front of their front yard, watering their grass. They're cutting off your path. They're stalking in the path, maintaining activity creation while they're monitoring. You are stalking while you're doing that. 4LTC526. And the entity just provided evidence against itself. Stalking with the Ontario Police Department is the highest threat. And Tracy Banks is going to federal prison, but the people of the state are going to federal prison for that. This is exactly what the government engages in order to try to silence American citizens. This is something that people like Tracy Banks are counting on. She's counting on me being murdered so that she can profit off of my demise and steal property that belongs to me. And that's why the Ontario Police is being disbanded. All right, it is currently 11:11 p.m. This has been P.O.C. All right, plane activity back at 325 West G Street as I'm processing the podcast at 11:13 p.m. where there's no planes that are taking off over this residential intersection, this area at all, from terminals 2 and 4. This is stalking by the same city of Ontario, alternating between the helicopter activity and what is the plane activity where the entity is engaging in that unintelligent targeting system in the engineer light. And this is relevant to, again, the people of the state at 647 H Street in Ontario, California, at 641 H Street in Ontario, California, at 535 H Street in Ontario, California, at 538 El Morado Court in Ontario, California, at 560 El Morado Court, where helicopter activity is happening over my head, which is an unlawful threat posed by the people of the state, gang stalking with the city of Ontario, that is targeting at 325 West G Street upon my return to the TABOR Professional Building, where there's no airplanes, commercial airplanes going to any destination when you're taking off from the terminals at the Ontario International Airport. The entity is gang stalking at 655 El Morado Court again, where I'm documenting helicopter activity, and also at 643 El Morado Court, where the people of the state are engaged in gang stalking as I'm documenting them by license plates, and that same entity is threatening my life and safety and liberty by gang stalking with the city of Ontario, who's using helicopter as I'm walking by all the people of the state's homes, and that's how they're engaging in stalking. The crossing of path is conducted as I am on the sidewalk, and they are in their facilitating venues. They're not private residences where the government is gang stalking and where the government is in that shared specific environment where my shadow is upright on your property at a distance away. That's the engineered environment. You're not living in a private residence. You are not sheltered. I'm going to prosecute you. And that's exactly what the people of the state just committed as I documented them. And the entity engages in what is threatening with the city of Ontario stalking by plane and helicopter, engaging in criminal summoning and engaging in what is molestation, while the people of the state are also stalking me, pursuing me with engineered light while I'm documenting them at the same time. That's a very mentally deranged stalker. Okay, when you are encapsulating the pattern of conduct by the demon-possessed entity, understanding a stalker, just understanding a stalker in your mind that is stalking you and is also keeping tabs on the evidence that you are accumulating in order to enforce your rights against this stalker that is following you around. And they engage in more threatening conduct the more you document and the more that they keep tabs on your evidence about them stalking you. That's what the demon-possessed are engaging in. That's what the city of Ontario is engaging in. That's what the Ontario Police Department just engaged in concert with the people of the state. They are being disbanded. The people of the state are going to be prosecuted with regard to federal prison for stalking with the police. That includes while you're in your facilitating venue where you live by address, and the Ontario police are threatening me by stalking me in a helicopter, which no American citizen that's not living in a third world country is going to be subject to, and that police department's not going to be prosecuted for terrorism, because that's exactly what it is, pursuant to criminal monitoring and a criminal act to obstruct justice. It is automatic. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. All right, this is the entity that she summoned on May 29th, gang stalking with the entity, and then engaging in what is summoning them to engage in what is kidnapping, making up information with the same stalker that's following me around by helicopter that I'm documenting on a daily basis, mentally ill psychopaths stalking me under a fake sun and amongst engineered light while they're monitoring me obsessively and my vagina, and then making up information that's not true while they're obsessively stalking me day and night. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison, and so is the Ontario Police Department being disbanded.
It is currently 11:17 p.m. The entity stalking biplane and helicopter, and this is the evidence against the people of the state, many of whose license plate I documented again tonight. This is another day of documenting a public entity stalking an American citizen, following from place to place while they are keeping the evidence against itself under surveillance, and it is the criminal act of obstruction of justice, while that entity that's engaging in that unlawful surveillance then uses the same criminal pattern of conduct to obstruct justice, to harass, to terrorize, and further disincentivize your documentation, which you're going to document that as well, because they will be prosecuted for that. That's an unlawful act of obstruction of justice pursuant to the pattern of conduct, and it is exhibiting the mental illness at the outset, not only because you're demons who are gang stalking, but because you're engaging in more stalking conduct like a psychopath, increasing violence and hostility and aggression while they are being called out for being on the wrong side of the law, for being sex offenders, for being demons, for being stalkers. It is currently for being thieves. It is currently 11:18 p.m. This is P.O.C. at the TABOR Professional Building. All right, the entity sounding helicopter activity as I am at the TABOR Professional Building. This is following from place to place, gang stalking in a helicopter. This is a domestic terrorism that's underway in the United States. I'm in California. This is not a third world country, and this is what LAPD was doing as well. As I was documenting LAPD, they would in real time fly over the top of my head, stalking and harassing in helicopter under the fake sun as I am documenting them. This is, again, mentally ill, targeting conduct by the demon possessed. In other words, the demon possessed that are showing how maniacal they are, and then I'm capturing that pattern of conduct, and that's the prosecution of the state that's engaging in that. And this is literally evidence as you're going step by step with regard to the evidence, following from place to place with the helicopter activity, and doing so the entire time that I'm documenting the people of the state. The entity engaging what is using helicopter, stalking me by helicopter as a means to obstruct justice, trying to stop me, harassing. That's not going to stop. This is mental illness exhibited by the entity that is gang stalking. But it's 11:20 p.m. So I want to document that I am processing the podcast, and the entity is repeatedly pacing while the entity is remaining with helicopter activity. That's the demons that are stalking in helicopter, just flying in circles like they were pacing over me while I'm walking on El Morado, walking on 8th Street, walking on Bonita, documenting the people of the state, stalking. All right, it is currently 11:21 p.m. That's P.O.C.